Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday the 3rd of December 2017. I'm your host Dan Train. Join me today, Zachary Burgess.
Get ready for a game of the year, not this podcast. I was just saying, you've got 4 more weeks to get ready, but get ready.
And Robert Kemp.
Buff Daddy.
Okay.
How long have we got to get ready? But get ready?
4 more weeks.
4 more weeks.
Technically, I think I'm nearest to the end of the year podcast might actually be on New Year's Eve, which I assume is not going to be our game of the year.
I guess it could be, right?
Maybe, depends what other plans might be happening around that time.
Yeah, we might have to do it the day before, but that'll be right.
Yeah, whenever. We've got loads of time.
But yeah, about 4 more weeks.
We got Crimbo Limbo.
Indeed.
It's the time for that stuff to be happening.
Days of podcasts that could be made.
Podcasts for
At
days.
least 3 hours.
Yeah. Or hours and hours. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because I'm really struggling for proper...
Yeah.
You say that, but that's not how that works.
Nominatory...
This is how every podcast works for us. We're like, oh, we haven't got any news this week. It'll be a short one, and then it's 2.5 hours, as always.
Because we find something dumb to talk
Yes,
about.
and gave the even more opportunity to talk about a variety of dumb things. And plus, which at this point, I mean, I'm sure there's been some amount of thought about it, but I haven't even looked at the list of every game that came out this year, and that'll be when I'll suddenly be like, oh yeah.
I guess, yeah.
And then I'll come up with a bunch of dumb shit to say about things.
But I'm not 100% sure we haven't covered as much 2017 stuff this year.
Also, we say this every year.
No, but
I think
my list is a lot shorter than the 2016 list right now.
And also, I think with the Switch situation, we've all played the same games, and they're all the
so
best games. So
that will at least help for one of the awards.
we're definitely a little less varied this year
Yeah.
in terms of our
a
content.
lot more varied. I've got some predictions already, but better keep them tight.
Yeah.
Mm.
Don't reveal our secrets. Because
I think-
apparently we'll need them during that podcast.
I know
Like
what
I
best
said
story is
before,
going to be.
Yeah.
That one's obvious.
What?
Best
What? I don't
story.
know.
Don't discuss it now.
Okay, fine.
I don't know.
Cease this topic.
Sonic Forces.
Yeah.
Sonic Forces.
See, that's what we might not actually play.
No.
Unless
Hey,
Rob
we-
gets it for Christmas,
So,
which
hey,
is distinctly possible.
We need a category for customizable costumes, like best. Yeah, because
There's not been many of those this year, though.
yeah, you
Well,
can
no,
do it
you got
in
Mario versus
Sonic Forces,
yeah.
and in Zelda you can change your costume.
Oh, well, I guess.
It's very vital.
Yeah, best costume change.
Yeah.
Best skins.
Yeah, skins.
In fairness, that would have gone to Overwatch last year had we had that category.
Would it?
It's got the hottest skins, man.
Did it
Hottest
last year?
skins.
Yeah.
Or were the hotter ones this year?
Nah, most of the good skins were added last year. I mean, they haven't actually added that many this year, I don't think.
Right, you're right. Let's not get into it.
Yeah.
What else is going on?
Best skins. What else is going on? I saw Justice League, if you want to talk about stupid
Oh,
stuff.
not
Oh,
the
no.
film segments.
Yeah.
Trying to avoid it.
I actually just wanted to say, it's not that bad. It's actually
Yeah.
not that bad.
Yeah.
Compared to, the other DC efforts that have involved.
I heard it was more enjoyably terrible rather than just miserable and depressing.
It's got a few jokes, here and there, and it's.
I heard all the jokes were in the trailer though, so
a lot of the best ones, yeah. but it's a tonal shift, and it visually looks the same as the previous
In
ones, but
places.
it's not. But the actual dialogue isn't all super serious anymore.
could you tell
And I
which
think they've got it
scenes
wrong.
were Zack Snyder and which were reshoots by Joss Whedon?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
But I didn't pay that much attention. I assume most of the talkie scenes were the ones that were reshot, because I guess all the other ones
Yeah.
had to have been planned way in advance.
Yeah, I guess so. Suddenly the
Which
screen
might be why
has
it
colour on
worked.
it.
Yeah. Which might be why it worked a bit better.
Hmm.
It's still not a patch on any Marvel film, any of them.
Man, that
But-
Thor film was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, you saw it last night.
Ragnarok.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, Ragnarok was awesome. You should see that,
Properly
Zach.
good.
It's pretty funny. And they're getting, because the thing is with Marvel is they're getting to the point where with those films, not the tentpole ones like Avengers or whatever, where everything has to come together and be ridiculous, but the ones where it's like individual heroes, now that they've set them up, now they could just do stupid shit or just go completely off piste, and that's the fun part. And they have the confidence to do it.
But they've still somehow got to bring it together for Infinity War next year,
I suppose.
Well, that's their big problem with those films. Is like you can make these individual films where the individual heroes go off and do their own thing, but then it has to do a diamond, and then somehow they have to come back. When they get to meet up.
But the only diamond they need is like the collection of. It's about a collection of MacGuffins, right? So each one of them has an individual MacGuffin, and then they come together to a bad guy who wants to collect the MacGuffins.
Too many MacGuffins. That's the trouble.
Except the MacGuffins are all over the place at the moment.
The Infinity Stones or Infinity MacGuffins, and he's going to collect them. That's his plan. He's a big purple space monster, and he's going to collect all the MacGuffins.
He's got a big golden glove.
I'm not sure he's even going to collect them. I think they just might all just turn up at the same place, and he'll just be like, "Oh, thanks."
Oh, yeah,
that was convenient. Yeah, there's a bit of that for sure.
I haven't seen Justice League,
where they are anymore.
But I heard there's a bit where the MacGuffin, the Infinity, not the cube, hypercube thing, they use it and then they sort of leave it unattended, and the baddie just turns up and goes yoink. Is that correct?
Spoiler alert. But yes,
but yes,
that totally happens. It is the most idiotic part of the film where they're just like, okay,
sorry,
we need to use this thing for something. And they don't. At no point does anyone go, that might draw the attention of the thing we're trying to stop from getting the thing. And it totally does. And they just sort of nick it while they're not looking.
While they're not looking? Genius. Yeah. Oh, man.
The Justice League, as it turns out, they're not very smart.
What a surprise.
They eventually get the job done.
By coming together as a team to make sure that the one who's way more powerful than the others actually does it.
Can be there.
Yeah.
And also, it's basically the Avengers, because the enemy's quite a lot like the Chitauri.
Well, I mean,
in some ways, just without giant space worms.
Doesn't Justice League predate the Avengers as a concept?
I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a while back. I don't know when was the Justice League? Do you think the 60s or maybe even earlier? No.
Don't know actually.
Anyway.
Don't know enough about me comic history.
Or more correctly, the Justice League of America. That's the real name.
Sure. But they're just making up, they're just picking what they think are the best plot lines and shoving them in there right now, aren't they? With no build up to them, hence the whole Death of Superman thing.
Oh, completely. They totally,
they're just taking they're taking the tentpole moments. Is that the word, tentpole?
Probably.
Yeah, something like
that. I don't know. I just used it, so that might be why it's in your head.
Okay, right.
But I used it. I don't know what it means.
Yeah, they're taking the biggest moments and just shoving them in there at the moment.
How long until one of these film series goes for the ultimate maneuver of just doing alternate Earth, where it's just like, now we're in a dimension.
Yeah, they'll do Crisis.
Everything resets.
Yeah. I mean, it happened in the comics, so it's bound to happen eventually in the MCU. They'll just be like, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Well, first they'll have to do a whole series of ultra versions of the characters where they're where the insane version.
And then it's like, oh no, it's fine, different dimension.
They should just do the Injustice storylines. Right, because those are better.
Well, they already sort of used up the Civil War storyline, but not, right? Anyway.
Yeah, so it was more like a civil scuffle.
Exactly. Oh, good term. Civil scuffle.
Civil scuffle.
But best avoided those.
There are deep. The thing is that none of Justice League doesn't visit any of the foreshadowing, or the heavy-handed foreshadowing, shall we say, from Dawn of Justice.
Not yet.
Yeah, none of that is
the first
touched.
couple of Marvel films where it's just they don't seem to link up, but then we'll get to that.
Yeah, but normally in the Marvel films, the teaser at the end of the film actually leads into pretty much the very next thing that happens.
Well, they do these days because they got a plan now.
Now they do. Maybe not the first couple of times.
No, but I think I preferred the original ones where they were I guess that all the original ones were all designed to head to the Avengers, right? And that was the only point where they came together was the Avengers film. And so all of those leading up to the teasers were a bit abstract, a bit what's going on, a bit. Yeah. And then the Avengers lands and it's everything comes together suddenly. Whereas now the teasers are like, this is what's happening in the next film with Doctor Strange in it.
Oh yeah, but it was kind of a cameo him in Thor, to be fair. Absolutely. I mean, the biggest one is Civil War, and that one was like supposed to be a Captain America film, but it was actually like quite a lot better than Avengers 2.
Yes, agreed.
But those directors are doing Avengers, aren't they? So I guess that gives hope. But I saw the trailer, and there's just too many characters. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I thought aren't some of the directors on that stuff working on Star Trek now or something like that?
It's the Russo brothers, isn't it?
I don't know. I think Star Trek's got someone weird at the helm at the moment. Like Abrams has let go or something.
He hasn't done it for years, Abrams.
No, he did the first one, didn't he?
No, he did the second one as well, which was bad.
Oh, did he? Oh.
Yeah. But he's doing Star Wars 3, which is good. Whatever it's called. The final installment before.
the technically final.
Well, they've already announced that the director of the one about to come out, Rian Johnson, is going to do a whole new trilogy.
So is the next one going to just be called The Lastest Jedi?
The most lastest of the Jedi.
Well, they have to start. They've got to invert it now. Now you've got to start counting up. Like the first few Jedi.
The second death of the Jedi.
No, there's more of them now. You're going to start rebuilding the Jedi, right? I mean, that's what they tried to do in that period between the 6th and 7th.
Birth of the Council.
Yeah, and fucked it up. Yeah.
Return of the Younglings.
Yep, exactly.
Too many prequel memes. There's quite a lot about that that he murders all the younglings.
Yep, he sure does.
Younglings, what a brilliant name. And the kid who's like going, what are we going to do before he murders them all? He calls him Master. And the whole point was that he wasn't granted the rank of Master. So he's like, you called me Master, but I'm still going to murder you.
That's probably why he murdered them.
Yeah, because it reminded him of what he couldn't be. It was like a sarcastic, Yeah.
You just imagine him going all Danny Dyer at the moment. So, what you saying, mate? You taking the piss?
Yeah, you taking the piss, mate.
How'd you like those limbs? Attached or not attached?
Oh, God.
Yes, mate. Anyway, films. That was all I really wanted to say on that.
That was film section.
That was the dumb film I saw.
End of dumb film section.
Yeah.
Now let's transition into my dumb section, Kitchen Bitchin.
We need a jingle for Kitchen Bitchin.
We need a jingle.
We kind of don't.
He's in the kitchen and he's bitching. It's time for the Kitchen Bitchin.
Is it called this? I've just realised. Is it called Kitchen Bitchin because
it rhymes?
The fridge magnet that you have in the kitchen and has been there for like 20 years.
I'm not sure we have that any longer.
There used to be one that said there's a reason kitchen rhymes with bitchin'.
Yes, the kitchen rhymes with bitchin' magnet did exist at some point.
In that particular kitchen.
And we're bitching about things in the kitchen. It's like,
I know, but I was wondering if it came from the fact that this particular kitchen used to have a fridge magnet in that actually said the phrase.
Maybe subconsciously. Maybe that made us come up with that name instead of some other kitchen-related pun, if you call that a pun.
I mean, what else would we call it, right? What was another name for
that's where we came up with stuff like house grouse.
That's not in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
House grouse is pretty good, because grouse is a weird word, but it does actually work, right?
Yeah, it does.
But anyway, our kettle finally died, for real.
Oh, wait, the replacement broken kettle.
The one that's been there for like the last however many years I've been bitching about.
Right, okay.
That one's finally actually for real died. Not just got replaced because we wanted a new kettle, it's actually died.
Oh, okay. So you were still using the old one even though the replacement was there?
No, there's no replacement.
Oh, I thought there was a replacement. You bitched about that.
There was that temporary, experimental replacement, which was determined to be too loud. That I bitched about.
Oh, right. So that it was too loud and got discontinued from
banned for loudness.
It came from the charity shop, so the stuff comes and goes for our house from there all the time.
Okay, I didn't realize
it sold on. No, send it back.
I didn't realize the loud one had been banished.
But the new one we've got also sucks.
Right.
God damn it!
Couldn't they have just? I mean, that my kettle's all right?
No, it's not.
Oh, for the love
pretty bad.
My kettle's design.
It's pretty bad.
It boils waters, it pours, and it doesn't cause a mess. What else do you want?
It does cause a mess. It's really badly designed.
It doesn't cause a mess.
Where, like, if you tip it up too soon after it's boiled, it makes the boil too much, and then it all spurts out of the spout and goes everywhere.
That's because you're pulling it off when it's still boiling. Just give it a moment to settle.
It's badly designed.
just don't pour bubbling water.
No other kettle I've ever used does that.
I don't see a problem. You're not going to drink it while it's going wobble, 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 wobble. So
that's irrelevant. You're pouring it out while it's
or you're filling it too much. Or you're filling it too much.
Also badly designed if it's able to be filled to a point where you can overfill it.
Every kettle can be filled too much. That's not a design flaw.
Well, it's just the design flaw is that your kettle doesn't take as much water as it should before it becomes too much, apparently.
Well, in fairness, the little gauge on the side has been crap for half its life. And that doesn't really work.
Well, not necessarily the gauge. I mean, like, this point that we're talking about where you're overfilling it and it's spewing everywhere is below what it's rated for its maximum on that gauge.
See, I don't know. I think you fill the kettle quite a bit, like, compared to what I normally do. So there.
No.
So there.
Your kettle is bad.
My kettle works fine.
I'm trying to think what the best kettle I've ever used is. I can't remember. What's your top kettle in life?
This one.
It's like the only one you've ever had, though.
No, I've had more than we had a one of those tall silver blue ones at 64. You know, where you've turned it on and a blue light came on inside for no reason. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think I do vaguely remember that.
Oh yeah, to make all of the water bright blue, right, as it's boiling.
Yeah, because it looks like water.
I think the best kettles are probably like the traditional sort of tall cylindrical plastic kettles. They're just there's a reason they were like that to start with. All the modern design that people try and do just makes kettles worse.
They do still exist. We've got one at work that's basically that.
Like this new kettle that we've got now isn't. Again, the same mistake has been made. A metal body, which makes it real loud and burn your hand dangerous.
Right.
As I previously discussed about metal kettles. That's just bad design in general. And
they look cool.
And it's also incredibly loud, so I'm surprised this kettle has even lasted. But this one was bought from a store, so it can't just disappear like the previous one. I think we might be stuck with it.
No, this was a commitment.
A bad commitment.
Do you remember when we had like a ridiculous like designer kettle that was like a stovetop one only? So it wasn't an electric kettle. And the only way...
My mum had a non-designer one of those where you had to put it on the gas hob to heat, and then it had a whistle on it.
Well, we had kettles
so
for our Argo, so you know.
Because the whistle had like a bird on it, didn't it? It was like a plastic thing with a little...
annoying thing, having a whistle kettle.
Yeah, it was so annoying. It took forever to boil, and then it was insanely loud.
Well, it had to be loud to tell you when it was done.
Yeah, I get that. But like, you can hear it.
It was totally annoying for me because it was in the age where I didn't need a kettle because I didn't drink hot drinks.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone in my house really did. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been practical to have this stupid kettle. I don't remember anyone. I don't know. I guess Mum and Dad would get coffee. Oh yeah, we'd do that.
But did you just put
that's in the milk, yeah. And in fact, we'd heat up milk in a milk pan on the hob, and then milk pans, of course, they don't fucking pour properly, do they? Even though they have a little lip for pouring, but it doesn't really work. No. Anyway,
speaking of kettles,
those pans.
Kettles that do work. Like last time I was in a scientific environment, a lab, basically, they had a kettle in there. That
was it temperature controlled?
Of the design that I'm talking about, the generic white cylinder kettle, but it was only used for boiling distilled water. And because of that, the inside was completely clean because there's nothing in
no limestone
to condense. And it had been used for like 20 years.
Nice.
And it was still pristine on the inside. It was like, see, that's a quality kettle.
It's like, no, that's not. That's also, quality water.
Slightly assisted by the water, but the fact that it's still...
Slightly? Everything assisted by the water in that case.
But still completely functional as a kettle. And like,
because it had nothing to break it, it'd never been exposed to anything that could damage it.
Yeah, but limescale doesn't technically damage a kettle; it just makes it boil worse. It doesn't like affect the design of the kettle.
I don't know. I guess like it did break the filter.
Sure, the filters are different.
Yeah.
that was the thing about this new kettle. You put it down, you boil it, and it's like, that's quite loud. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to get louder. As soon as there's any scale in it, that will just enhance how loud it was. And turns out within one day, it got significantly louder. And I was like, well, I told you.
So what's the plan? Replacement? Oh, yeah, mate. Now you need to go through a consultation process. You do all the research for like a day, like print everything out.
Toaster and this terrible kettle. I guess this is just our life now.
I'm still not 100% sure I understand why a loud kettle is a problem.
No,
because people can't cope with that noise in the mornings. Apparently, supposedly,
it's part of what wakes you up. Actually, well, in fairness, what wakes us up is when we pre-program the coffee machine and you get the extremely loud grinding noise. It's like, oh, wait now.
That's a different noise for sure.
Woo!
I didn't know you could program that on a timer. That's pretty fancy.
Yeah.
So you get woken up and the coffee's already ready?
When
it works.
But in fairness, Gnome only ever sets it to make her a cup of coffee. Because then I have to take her to the train station. It's like, I'm not drinking it while I'm driving.
No.
Steal a Starbucks cup and start pouring it into there.
You could, you need a little. Legit. I've got little, like plastic. It's like
we've got loads of those little eco cup things.
It's called like a keep cup. Keep cup.
In fairness, most of those are garbage though, because Gnome's been through like 5.
I've got a good one.
Break them all in different ways.
Long-lasting one. I can tell you where to get them.
Okay,
pretty good. Keep cup. That's the.
You might need to let Gnome that detail so she doesn't buy crap ones.
Yeah, Gnome can get one
that leak everywhere.
Gnome can get one from near work because they have them I think they sell them at Taylor Street and stuff. They sell them all over the place in London at coffee shops. You can usually get them.
Sure.
Although I haven't been using it, I need to get it washed and back into circulation.
Just the thing, I like Costa make their own as well, but I don't know if they're any good or anything like that. And you have to walk around with a giant Costa branded fancy.
Yeah, that's no good.
Just wrap it in something. Wrap it in a brown paper bag.
It doesn't stop it leaking.
Like some kind of booze.
It doesn't stop it leaking. What? Oh, the Costa cup. Right, yeah sorry, got you. Yeah.
Some kind of booze.
Some kind of booze.
Well, that's the kitchen bitchin'. The kettle has been testing Zach's metal. And he's got to get one that's in fine fettle.
I'm not going to do shit. I'm going to wait until it becomes a problem again. That's my standard procedure.
You are the most passive aggressive.
Yep.
I can't believe how much enjoyment you get out of complaining about the kettle. I mean, you want the worst. You want a parade of terrible kettles so that you can complain about them. Really, I mean, ideally.
Yeah, exactly.
No, just imagine. No, what we need, right, is a bake-off table. Like you just get a line of, and each contestant brings a kettle. And it's like the technical challenge. You don't know who brought what kettle, but you're going to go down the line and be like, this one's got a soggy bottom. So that's immediately last place.
This cake is way too loud.
Yeah. It's really loud cake.
It's too loud in the morning.
If we ever get money for this show, we should totally do that.
What, a sponsored, like, kettle off?
Yeah, kettle off.
Yeah.
Let's put this to bed once and for all.
You know, you can get some seriously fancy kettles for coffee. You can get, like, temperature-controlled ones that don't just boil it, and you can adjust it.
It's the right temperature for coffee.
Yeah, and they have ones with, like, goosenecks for, like, pour over
coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of fancy shit. Yeah.
Well, technically, I've got one of those for the stove. I've got like a gooseneck little thing.
Fancy.
That was a wedding gift.
I've never learned how to do the pour over thing. I just use the air still.
The thing is, since we got the grinder, like the coffee machine, it's like all of that stuff is somewhat redundant. But it's all done.
It's cool. Yeah. I think I might get just the grinder, not the whole coffee machine, but just because it's kind of annoying. I'm using a hand grinder.
Oh, God, they're the worst.
It's annoying. I mean...
It was very funny, though, when a mate of mine came over and he was hand grinding for ages and it examined it every now and then and was like, it's still too coarse. Made a little adjustment, ground it for another like 10 hours and then opened it up. And then eventually the classic thing happened. It's like, too course. Too fine, sorry. Too fine.
Too fine. Yeah. Because you can easily make it too fine, I reckon, for like, especially if you're doing like cafetiere or whatever. You don't want it too fine. Anyway.
It's pretty funny, though. It was very much like the pepper joke from The Simpsons. A little more. Too much, take it back.
Simpsons. Well, what's news to me is I got a sound bar yesterday. I managed to get the TV off the damn wall, which I've probably complained about before. But basically, the TV in this flat, which I was originally a lodger in, so it was the guy's home that I was staying in, and he had the TV mounted ridiculously high up on the wall. It looked really cool when it was off, but
not that good. It actually was.
Yeah, when you actually want to watch TV, and it was slightly angled towards the ceiling, not towards the floor, which was really stupid.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was. I think it was only a slight, but it was like what? Anyway, managed to get it down, and then last weekend I went to IKEA and got a TV stand to put it on. Very important furniture. And then this weekend, yesterday, I got a soundbar. So the idea is that.
So you thought of going that way rather than a proper amp and speaker setup, then?
Yes. Yeah. Basically, it needs to be like portable, so when I leave this place, I can just take it with me and then attach it to the next. When I actually buy a TV for myself, when I have a living room of my own in the future. But I got a Sonos soundbar.
Decided to not do it correctly.
Well, no, because what's wrong with the soundbar?
Okay, you just don't get true surround out of them, right?
No, but the way this one works,
they bounce okay, but yeah, it's never quite convincing.
So the way this one works is you can add speakers to make it surround, basically. Cool. It's pretty cool. It's the Sonos system, which is pretty good. Like I thought originally, when I had them in the office, I thought, well, this isn't going to be too audiophile. But actually, looking into it, like the reviews are really good from What Hi-Fi. They're like 5 stars, and
in fairness, they always were pretty good. Actually, right from the start, they were okay. It was just in the early days, it was that just you had to use Sonos software to power Sonos kit, and while that's got better, that is still slightly a problem.
It's a bit clunky, but the way this is working now, it's worked out pretty well for what I wanted. So it's and it's not cheap, so it's a pretty it's a pretty decent bit of kit, and you can then
those things. All Sonos equipment is crazy money.
It's not crazy.
Too much money for what it is. Like
it's not like audiophile, but it's pretty decent.
It's pretty decent, but that's what I mean. Just the cost for a speaker the uplift because it's a Sonos bit of kit over just a speaker.
I guess so, but it had better reviews than the equivalent in the same price range, like the Bose one, etc.
No, but that's what I mean. Just that when you throw the word, it's one of these wireless sound systems in it.
Yeah,
which isn't actually that hardcore a bit of technology these days.
No, it's not that hardcore.
It's like the price uplift is immense. Really, it's like it's got better over the years. But I remember when they first came out, these things are like £700 for one of those little Sonos speakers.
Yeah,
like
how much are they? They're like $150 or something each, I think.
That's still a lot for a single speaker.
Is that right? How much? Oh, although I may be thinking of, because now you can get one with an Alexa in it or whatever. I think that's like a 180.
Right?
Or something.
Yeah, they combined with an Echo,
which is a good idea. So you don't need a separate. But
those new Echoes are actually surprisingly okay speakers.
Yeah, but Sonos would be a better speaker.
Sure.
So the idea with this is you can then add a subwoofer, and you could add 2 Play 1s to make 5.1 plus 5.1 effectively, because the soundbar would take care of the middle 3.
Sure.
Yes, that's the idea, but I don't plan on doing that, or at least not for there's nowhere to put the other speakers, and it's expensive. And to be honest, it sounds all right without the subwoofer currently, at least for my current needs. It's not lacking in masses of bass. It's just not rumbling the place like my main stereo.
Also, you're in a terrace. Probably shouldn't have that powerful a sub.
Yeah, that's true. It probably wouldn't. Although I'm kind of in the basement, so it's not so bad. But yeah, it's probably not. It's pretty good without. So I'm pretty pleased so far. You just plug it into the optical out of the TV and then configure it. And like, it's got a really nice, to be fair to them, it's got a really nice setup process with the app and everything. The only part that went wrong repeatedly was Spotify's fault, not theirs. Trying to authorize Spotify with Sonos kept failing on Spotify's end, but eventually managed to get it to work. I think Spotify was just being flaky. Anyway, so and I got a Chromecast as well, so that I could. Yeah. And so now I'm sort of mucking about, so I can cast YouTube to the TV. I can cast Netflix, iPlayer, and I've just while we were waiting to set up, I've installed Plex on my PC and had it scan my media. Yeah, I can cast that.
Yeah, I messed around a bit with Plex on my NAS drive, and I think it requires a bit too much of my NAS drive to actually run.
Oh, right, without the computer. Yeah,
which is a bit of a bug because I just don't want to run a PC all the time.
Fair enough. Yeah,
help it. And in fairness, the Xbox these days is actually very, very good at this stuff.
That's true.
If you don't mind about. Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind about I run into problems if I want to watch anime, for instance, because you can't pick the subtitle track on properly made files. For instance, so I can't do it that way. In which case, I'll just run it through the PC to the TV. But the Xbox is actually surprisingly good at this stuff these days.
You might be able to run. I don't know, but I just noticed when I went to the Plex site, you might be able to run it on your ridiculous router because it mentioned one of the. I think that brand of router, because you got an insane one, didn't you? Yeah, I think you might be able to run it straight off the Nighthawk. So maybe have a look into that.
Yeah, it might be powerful enough. The only problem would be Plex has historically had a tendency to transcode some sorts of files, like if you're running MKVs and things.
Right.
So it'd be the question of whether you could send those. Because I think when I ripped my HD DVD collection, that redundant crap, I think they all came out as MKVs. So there's a bit of which the Xbox actually can play pretty well, as it turned out. But nothing was able to transcode to send it to other devices. So yeah, that's where the problem lies. Like unless you've got a relatively beefy machine at the back end to live, what is it? It's not called transcode. It's called. They give it a weird name now for when they do it live. Like it is a transcode, but it's because it's doing it live. They gave it a different name. I can't remember. But yeah, that's where the power is needed.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to run it on my PC for now. But anyway, I'm not going for like a full setup. This is like my first attempt at a setup, and I've also got me and Gary got. Between us, bought an extra Switch dock.
Okay.
So that I can take my Switch and plug it into the living room TV. So, and now I think basically I wasn't spending much time in the living room, and now I've got it just about set up because now I can like stream Spotify music. Like I don't even need the Sonos app. Actually, I was annoyed. I thought I would, but actually, in the Spotify app, you can just choose. I'll just stream to the Sonos. So I could play.
They've built it straight into the app, right? So it can just do it.
Yeah, it's in the Sonos. Oh, sorry, the Spotify app. Just like switching between like Bluetooth devices or whatever. You can just
casting.
Yeah,
because your Chromecast must appear in there as well, right?
In
Spotify.
I could, but then I'd need the TV to be on. This way, I don't. So
that's the other. That's okay. Good. That was the other question I was going to have. Because it's a soundbar and it's connected to your TV. Does it somewhat rely on the television being?
No, it does not. So I can use it as a stereo which sounds fine, without.
There's so many solutions that exist that just need your TV on to work.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Chromecast, to be fair, has quite a nice no video screen where it shows nice pictures and stuff.
Oh yeah, that stuff's nice.
That's quite nice, but I wouldn't want the TV on when I'm not watching something. So
no,
it's experimental so far, but so far everything seems to work quite smoothly. I had a bit of a problem where the play pause on the YouTube app on the phone doesn't actually pause the thing, and I have to switch to the Google Home app, which is the one that's actually controlling the Chromecast, which is a bit weird. But anyway, I mean, it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to be pausing YouTube videos all that much. But yeah, there's some slight niggles, but it seems to be pretty good so far. We watched Star Wars last night, and the sound was, well, miles better than the TV by itself. So
anything would be better than that.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good to me for like a basic. Now I can actually enjoy it, because I basically didn't. A lot of people don't care about the sound at all. For some
surprising,
reason.
Isn't it? I
so
find
weird.
it a big deal. Yeah.
Like, I just can't watch like on a tinny, like a film, like Star Wars or something big, or like on a tinny like TV speaker. It's just ridiculous. That's like half the experience is like how it sounds and everything.
It is occasionally painful going to other people's houses.
Yeah,
and just coming out of that setup, and it's like, come on, you can do better than this.
So anyway,
a bar is the entry level. Even I mean, not even a good bar. I mean, even if you got a bar, it's better than your TV speakers.
So I've just gone for a good bar, and then in future I can extend it if necessary. My only worry with Sonos is that because my stereo that I've used with my computer, has been the same for 10 years, and it's perfectly fine. And I'm a bit worried that the Sonos, it'll be like next year there's a new edition or whatever, and it'll be like, I want this thing to last for years.
I don't think they discontinue stuff in the same way that they do like your phone, for instance.
Yeah, that's the worry.
I don't think there's like an update limit on some of that kit.
Yeah. As long as it continues.
It's just like there may come a point where there's like it's a technology it doesn't support. Like, I don't know, the new wave of the current wave of Chromecasts, I guess, support Google's new AirPlay equivalent for like sending stuff all in sync to multiple devices. Right.
I got the fanciest Chromecast I could, even though the TV is not 4K.
Oh, what the ridiculous,
the Ultra one?
Like,
yeah.
You'd have been fine with a regular one.
Probably, but anyway,
because I've got a regular one, and they're
not that expensive, to be honest.
No, like, they're not. They're really
sub
not.
£100 or whatever. They're like, I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, but like the regular Chromecast is like £30 or something.
I know, it's ridiculous. Steal. But I was like, oh, screw it, I'm paying like £700 for this soundbar, so
that's future-proof a lot.
That's the idea, yeah. But that's not the galling thing. The galling thing is that if you want a subwoofer, it's another £700, which is ridiculous.
That's a lot of money for a bar, man.
I know. Well, it was the best reviewed one I could find. So pretty happy. Sounds pretty damn good. So now I'm gonna be actually gaming in the living room as I've done for years.
Oh, that would be quite nice.
Ever, really. Yeah.
I'm in the awkward place with that sort of tech because it's like I'm still, despite all these new streaming services, and don't get me wrong, I get Spotify and all that stuff. It's like I can see why for most people that's super useful, but I don't listen to the mainstream like all the time. I quite like having my OC remix collection on. Oh,
totally, yeah.
On tab, or stuff I've made, or
I guess I could
random
do that.
stuff Zach has dumped on my drive every now and then. It's like I play from the NAS drive here because it's like that's the thing, and it's like actually doing that solution is becoming increasingly worse supported.
That's something that Plex could do if it ran, right?
Yeah, and in fairness, the NAS drive, the Synology NAS I've got runs its own DLNA server. It runs it's got its own DS Audio software on it, so I can from my phone tell it to go to play out to AirPlay because that's what it supports. So, and I've got two AirPlay. My amp has AirPlay built in, and I've got a couple of spare AirPlay devices littered about the house, so I can do the what do you call it? The sync streaming everywhere, which is the nice part. It's like I can do it, but all of it needs to come from another device sending it to the system. If you see what I mean. It's like something in me is just like, can't I just have the one thing doing the thing? Like rather than having multiple parts doing things.
Yeah.
And it's just a little bit annoying. Like if I want to use Spotify at the moment, my solution is I've got a little app called TuneBlade that runs on the PC that can divert all audio on the PC to AirPlay.
Ah, okay.
So I can solve the problem that way. So I can use Winamp to drive AirPlay, which is fantastic.
That's cool.
Winamp is still the best player by miles. And it's like just like I can't get It's one of those things
crazy
where
how Winamp has such. I don't like. Okay, so this is going slightly off piste, but at work, my new work or whatever, the plan is that for this project and for the teams in general for this client is to use the Spotify model of how they organize themselves within the agile framework.
Sure.
So they have like these tribes, squads and guilds, something like that. Anyway, it makes sense. It's like a squad is like a scrum team, but then you also have, which are cross-functional, but then you have like a guild, which is like you're in the designers guild, or you're in the UXers guild, or you're in the, and then you have like meetups, little and brown bags within your guild and stuff, which makes sense, all that stuff. And they showed that a video of like from Spotify of like how they work and how they innovate and stuff. And they have, it looks really awesome. Like that each team has its own working space, which is kind of open plan, but just for the team. And then they have their own like, breakout space with, you know, planning boards, but also sofas and everything per team.
I do wonder if that's changed since that video came out, because that's like 3 or 4 years
Have
old
you seen this one? Yeah. Are you in the same thing or
no, very much no. We're too small for that. But that stuff's been around for years and years and years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just never done that. I just done more traditional agile, I guess. But anyway, but that video kind of makes you want to work for Spotify, to be honest.
Yeah, it does.
But then Spotify is amazing as well. I love it. I listen to most of the stuff I want to listen to is on there. I mean, there are gaps. But
yeah, I've definitely found the odd occasion where there's not been something there. And it's normally, in fairness to it, slightly obscure.
Yeah. Or there's like, well, the most annoying thing is when an artist is on there, but like one of the albums is missing.
Yeah.
That's annoying. And it doesn't tell you. Yeah. But anyway, my main problem is that fucking UI is shit in many places. Like the app itself on iOS or whatever, it takes forever to boot up. It's just painful. Yeah, like I could literally, like when I used to get on at Farringdon and then I get off at the King's Cross, like I'd hit the button to start playing music when I was on the platform at Farringdon. Sometimes I hadn't really booted by the time I was at King's Cross. It was like ridiculous. And well, it boots and then it boots onto a screen which isn't the one I want and it doesn't remember from before. So I have to navigate 2 different things to get to my albums. And my albums that I have to listen to on the tube, I've pre-downloaded them, right? But I'm sure it's trying to make network connections while I'm trying to navigate, you know, which have to then fail, and it's just painful. Anyway,
couldn't you have baked more of this into the app, or do you have to turn your phone into airplane mode to make it fast?
I don't know, but anyway, and then the main Spotify app on desktop or whatever, it's fine, but Winamp was so much better. It's like, can't they all I want to do is, for example, I know maybe this is just me, but I want to be able to shuffle all my music like I used to in Winamp. But then when I want to go and listen to an album, I don't want it to be in shuffle mode. I have to keep toggling the shuffle thing.
In fairness, I think you have to do that in Winamp anyway, right? If you play an album,
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, because in the
that one thing you mentioned there, the shuffle all button, that's a
giant green
omission
button in the app. You go to an album and there's a huge call to action which is quite hard not to press to shuffle it. Why would I want to shuffle an album?
Oh, right, that exists but that's only shuffle an album. What I mean is I want Spotify to just have
shuffle everything.
Shuffle everything. Or, which I don't think exists. Or
I've discovered how to do it.
What I would love is a shuffle all of Spotify button. I would love that.
That would be great. That would be amazing.
Something utterly random from your entire service, and I will be very happy.
I don't know if you would be. It's like,
but I love
percentage chance are you going to actually listen to that track and not just skip it?
I spend most of my time.
How many skips in a row are we talking before you just give up?
That would be amazing.
And it would be fun. Like I do spend most of my time on, like, when I listen to Spotify, listening to its discovery queue for the week.
Yeah, that's amazing. By the way, their machine learning is spooky.
Well,
sometimes.
You know what? I actually don't think it's that spooky, because I think all it does is just listen to the last few things you were actually listening to and build an entire playlist from that. Because if I was listening to jazz, it's like, well, at one point, the next week would be like, I've built an entire discovery queue filled with jazz.
Right.
Or if I've gone to Throwback Thursday and it was like an R&B week, once, my discovery queue for the following week was nothing but 90s R&B. And it's like, it's not actually that smart. It's just remembering the last few things you listen to.
Right, yeah.
And then picking the most popular stuff around it, it seems, that isn't already in your library.
My Discover thing...
I think that's the only rule.
My Discover playlist, Discover Weekly, is usually pretty good.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that
right,
thing.
Yeah.
It's like it seems like it's only paid attention to the last few days.
Yeah.
Like from when it generated. Which is a shame because I quite like it to take my entire taste into account sometimes. It's like, why not throw a random jazz track in? Why not throw a random bit of Skrillex in there? Why not, mix it up a bit? It's like, I know like Spotify's thing has always been the playlist, right? It's always been about keeping things together in some themed way. In many ways, that's what it goes for. That's what most modern music goes for some reason. And I don't want that. I want the eclectic. I want the random. I want to be surprised constantly. And that's why Winamp is great, because I can just load my entire NAS drive onto it and go, play me something. And it goes, yeah, fine, great. I mean, even the annoying thing, like that DS Audio app I was talking about, even that can't handle shuffle everything, because it gets close, because what it has is a random 100 playlist. And you have to pick that, and then it goes, all right, I've loaded 100 tracks into the playlist, and I'm going to start going. And it's like, which is fine, because 100 tracks is going to get you through the most of a day, right? If you just leave it running. But you don't want to listen to them all, you skip. And so you can sometimes work through that. And it's just... It serves the same purpose, but in my head, it's like, shuffle everything, man. Don't limit yourself, just go. So,
life hacks. If you want to know, because I did figure it out, if you want to know how to shuffle your songs, right? Put on shuffle mode, right? And then I discovered that in the left-hand bar, you can double-click on songs, and that will shuffle everything.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Top tip. Life hacks.
Okay, that's pretty good. Does that work on the web player? Because I use that mostly.
I don't know.
I'll try that. I will try.
But I mean, the web player almost is the same, isn't it, as the desktop app, because it's an Electron app, or it's a fake app, app that's actually a web browser, like Steam or whatever.
They've been streamlining that thing to the point where it's like, how many options are actually going to be left by the time they're done? There's like nothing there now.
Yeah. I wish I could make the album art bigger of the thing I'm playing. But no, anyway, never mind.
Anyway, it's Spotify.
Cool.
Spotify in the music world. It's never quite ideal.
No. And with Winamp, like 10 years ago, you could like customize the shit out of it. Anyway.
Also, podcast apps on Android. Not quite ideal.
No, the podcast app on iTunes, iOS is, to be fair, pretty good.
Like, it was better when it was part of the music app before they split it out.
They have added a lot of functionality to it in terms of like, you can say, okay, I want this to download this often or delete after I've listened to it, or this many, or it has tons of options now, and it's not bad. Sometimes it hasn't. I'm annoyed because when I get to the bus stop, I find it hasn't downloaded the thing.
Yep,
which is very annoying.
That happens on my. I'm using Podcast Addict on Android at the moment, and that occasionally has that problem where it just hasn't downloaded.
It just hasn't done it. But otherwise, it's pretty good. I think my only other problem with the iOS one is like when you're playing, the UI is so complicated that the actual play button is really tiny sometimes. Anyways.
Okay, how does it? Right, this is the key question. How does it handle going from one episode to the next? Now, that might seem like a deceptively simple question, right? In that, if I pick a series of podcasts, let's say our podcast, and I start at episode 1, and I've downloaded, assume that we've only just started and we've got like 3 episodes up there, but I've set my download queue to 5. If I start at that point and say I'm listening to episode 1, how far does it get before it stops? Assuming that I'm listening to 1 a week and it keeps downloading automatically. Because I've tried a number of apps out, right, and they all have a tendency to playlist the sequence of podcasts you're going to listen to. And it took some configuring on the one I'm using now for me to be able to pick episode 1 and it go, all right, I've not just queued up episode 1, I've queued up 2 and 3 to follow. But then the problem is that that's then created that playlist as that playlist. When episodes 4 and 5 download, they're not in the playlist unless I specifically go to pick at something to listen to, and then it generates a new playlist. So it's never continuous.
I'm not entirely sure what the answer to that is.
But it seems like a really obvious thing, right? If I'm listening to this podcast, episode 1, just play the next one.
So
it seems so easy, and yet,
it does seem easy.
Nothing does it.
Well, for some reason, like that must just be some weird design, like something that someone decided on with podcasts at some point. Because, like, if you even to go even less like modern, my goddamn generic Sony MP3 Walkman,
right? That thing, that's a cool thing.
It's a nice, like, it plays MP3 files, which is what I care about. That's the most important thing, clearly. But if you play podcasts on it in its podcast page, whatever, separate from the music, it won't auto continue. Like, there's literally no option to have it go to the next after it reaches the end of a file. You have to manually navigate to the next file. And I'm like, why? Why would you not? It's like not even an option somewhere that you can turn on. It just literally can't do it.
And I imagine, like, a device of that age, don't get me wrong, those are cool devices because I've got one of those. And I think you've actually got the slightly newer version, the one I had. Those are cool little things, but they were kind of before podcasts had really...
Not really. Not
super taken off.
I was using this well before I...
And it's not like it knows about the RSS feeds or what's
it's
part of a series.
It's not actually connected to anything.
Yeah.
You have to physically plug it into the computer if you want to put files on it.
Yeah.
So
I did at one point considering getting my old one out and just having that permanently plugged into the car. But then I realised, it won't automatically actually start playing from this, will it? I'd still have to manually control the thing. That doesn't solve my problem.
So I think I don't know what the answer is with the iOS one, because my use case is like I've got it set to download the latest 3 or whatever, right, of a podcast. So I'm not starting from the first one. It's just, there have been hundreds of episodes of this podcast, and
it doesn't matter. What I mean is, like, it doesn't matter even although I use the example of number 1. Say we started at 27. It's like I want to start at 27 and it just keep going for as long as there's episodes.
So my one will go, you listen to 27, which is the latest one, and then at the end it'll start playing 26.
That's even weirder.
If you haven't listened to it.
Yeah, Podcast Addict did that until I adjusted it.
Yeah, that's the default, right?
Yeah, it's so annoying.
That's what I would...
Also, that was the default in Podcast Addict. It played backwards. Like, the default playlist it generated would always be backwards.
So they're thinking...
Even if I'd listened to the one before it, it would just always go backwards. It's like, no. Yeah. This is really easy, guys. I'm highly tempted to like, this is the thing that might make me learn Xamarin Native. Like, because I might just build a podcast.
Oh, here we go. Settings. Play oldest to newest. Newest to oldest. Okay, there's just a setting.
Yeah.
And you could do it per
still, you still have to configure
That's
that, right?
Good.
Like, it just seems like the default is just wrong.
I suppose so. I guess it depends.
And we should talk about video games. We've been talking about crap for a long time.
Yeah, I guess so. News. There's no news this week.
Well, sort of.
Talk about Battlefront, Zach, because that seems to be the one news story.
The news story that's continued to be a news story.
Yeah.
Because they can't stop talking.
Can't stop.
The classic problem. You have to come up with reasons for things. And naturally, because you're not actually going to say what the actual reason for anything you're doing is, then you have to come up with bullshit reasons. And then everyone points out the fact that the reasons are bullshit. Like, for example... when the CEO of EA declared that the reason why Battlefront 2 couldn't have cosmetic DLC was because of canon.
Wait, what?
We didn't want to fuck with the Star Wars canon, even though Battlefront 1 had cosmetic...
You could do tons of canon freaking costumes.
And you could do tons of canon shit in Star Wars, yes.
Look at Star Wars. Like, even all the, like, central characters are all in different costumes in the different films and stuff.
Some of that does already exist in Battlefront 2. Like when you get normal Rey or Jedi training Rey, where she looks slightly the different robes.
Well, that's a start, isn't it?
I think part of my consciousness has just seeped out my ears.
Yep, that's EA being dumb for you.
Good God.
But then, because the second half of this quote about where he's like, we didn't want to do it. We had to put gameplay stuff in our loot boxes because we couldn't put cosmetics in because of canon. And he then goes on to make us.
Wait, is this Patrick Soden
Yeah,
again?
I think it might be.
Oh God.
He then goes on to say, like, he makes the dumb example where it's like, oh, you wouldn't want a pink Darth Vader because that would fuck with canon. It's like, well, I wasn't expecting you to put a pink Darth Vader in, to be honest. I was expecting you to do something much more subtle and Star Warsy.
Can you have a helmetless Darth Vader? You know, like the end of.
Well, yeah, why not?
Jedi.
Though? Yeah,
that probably would fuck with canon.
Not enough.
He wouldn't be running around without his helmet on.
I mean, if they put before Vader, whatever his name is, Anakin in there. Is Anakin in there?
No, I don't think
But there you go then. It could have been a skin for Vader. Just put an Anakin in there.
I suppose that could have been like an alternate, like extremely alternate. Before the lava, Anakin.
Is
There's
Leia
loads of heroes that aren't in there.
Because now you've got new Leia.
Leia was in the
Leia.
last one, right?
Yeah.
Leia was in Battlefront 1. I don't
If
know.
you want to talk about weird canon implications, what about like beard Han Solo that's from the pre-order?
Beard Solo.
When has he ever had a beard? Like a real beard? Like he looks, from what I've seen of that model in Battlefront 2, he looks real scruffy, like actual homo Han Solo. And I'm like, that doesn't fit the character at all.
Hobo Solo.
I like that as a name. That has to stick.
So yeah, EA came up with a dumb reason for something that they didn't need to come up with a reason for.
No, you could have just said because we're going to sell them to you later.
Yep, because we
And
want
that
more
would have
money.
actually been a slightly more.
Well, except that they
trustworthy
don't.
response.
Apparently, they don't want to make cosmetic DLC, even though. Well, then not even more stupid because so firstly, Battlefront 1 had cosmetics that obviously weren't DLC or anything. They were just like you could change to a Twilight if you were a rebel. Why not? Have a weird tentacle head.
And also, let's not forget that the maps in Battlefront 1 were DLC.
Sure, I guess.
Is this? Here's a terrible thought. Is this our doing? Is Battlefront 2 and the way it's structured our doing because people didn't want to buy map packs anymore?
No, it's EA's
no,
fault.
it's not.
Well, yes, obviously.
Just to clarify.
It's nothing to do with whether we didn't want to buy map packs. It's like other people had already had that model.
Yeah, and done it well.
And then EA came along and like, yeah, we're going to do that too, and then colossally fucked it up.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a problem with the model, it's a problem with EA's version of the model.
Mm.
But yeah, so after Battlefront 1 clearly had character customization.
I guess if they weren't doing cosmetics, they weren't left with a lot of choice, though, right?
Well,
because
it's the Forza loot box problem, where like, they had to invent a whole new class of cosmetics to have in Forza.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after Battlefront 1 had character customization, it's like, why is this not in Battlefront 2? And also, it's like, it's not even like it's not in Battlefront 2 because they're going to sell it to you. They just don't want to have it in Battlefront 2, apparently.
We're going to have a category for bad loot box of the year.
But then, surprise, the secret is the character customization basically is in Battlefront 2. Because in the campaign, there's various rebels and they have different, they're different characters. And there's actually a way you can hack Battlefront 2 to reveal those character models in the menu. Like, it's literally accessed where you would customize the character.
Okay.
Like Han Solo and Beard Han Solo. You can actually make it let you access all the models that are in the game through that menu as though it were an actual option that you could normally do.
Wait, so... sorry, run that one by me again. So that the assets are there, they're just not available in any way.
Yeah, the assets have to be there for the single player.
Right.
But they're accessible through the menu in a way which suggests that you should be able to just access them.
They've built a customization plan that's just not exposed.
Yeah.
Normally. Interesting.
But they also apparently don't want to sell you customization. They only want to sell you this other stuff that's in the loot boxes.
Well, they don't want to sell you
They want to sell you progress. Well, no, they turned that whole system off. And also EA... Apparently, this whole thing has cost EA $3 billion of stock price, which is like virtually nothing, of course. But
yeah, how much
it sounds big.
How much is EA actually worth?
A lot.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, $3 billion of stock price of EA, it's gone down like 2%. but over the rest of this year, it's gone up 26%.
Right.
So that's basically nothing.
It's nothing.
EA's had such a terrible year. How has it gone up?
Because stock always goes up.
Because FIFA, I guess.
I guess
FIFA was the least expensive game they put out.
I guess they just continue to make money.
Well, yeah.
And also, all you have to do, if they make money
this year,
that's the
weren't
main
bad
thing.
games, right? By all accounts.
Yeah, I guess those versions.
I think the stock traders are like, well, it looks really bad, but they're making tons of money, so I can. If anyone's selling, I'll buy it. Yeah,
it'll go down 2%, and then we'll make some amount of money on that 2% when it bounces back up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Classic stock trading maneuvers.
I guess that 2%. If you've got the money, that 2% could be worth a lot of money.
So that's EA's continuing to be done.
Yeah.
Who knows what will actually happen when they turn the loot box system back on at some point.
Hey, that Need for Speed game looks bad.
Oh yeah, and that has terrible loot boxes as well, apparently.
Oh, it has loot boxes as well.
Yep.
I just heard that game was bad. I didn't hear it had loot boxes as well.
Of course it has loot boxes. Everything has fucking loot boxes.
Oh man.
Year of the loot box.
Yeah. Well, we've been in that for several years, but good God, this is the year of the loot box disaster.
Well, this is the year of loot boxes where people are coming up for new reasons for loot boxes that are bad. Whereas when they're forcing loot boxes that aren't just obvious, they're like, we need to find new ways to make loot boxes that are unlocking dumb things that shouldn't be in loot boxes in the first place.
It is. It's the worst when you put these EA and even Microsoft. I'll put in this, and Warner Brothers, the biggest of the big.
Yep, they've got the most money.
They've got the most money. In fairness, fair play, Sony. You don't seem to have got involved in this yet.
No, I guess.
But they're the biggest of the big, and they've all got it wrong this year. And then you've got plucky little Nintendo on the side going, we don't need any of that.
Well, Nintendo has only just started to learn what the fuck DLC is.
And let's hope they never, ever learn any more than what they're doing right now.
I mean, yeah.
Well, they're still overpricing their DLC, so...
Sure.
They still haven't actually learned the real...
But they're overpricing Smash Brothers deals.
I don't know. Quite
it's
a lot.
Not overpriced if people buy it.
I guess. But, I mean, that Zelda DLC doesn't seem that bad.
I would say the Mario Kart DLC was good
price.
Value, wasn't
Mario Kart was the one that was definitely...
Mario Kart was an amazing deal, yeah.
But I think, basically we've listed the 3 major examples of Nintendo DLC, and if you take the 2 extremes off, you've just got average. So I wouldn't say...
Yeah, all right.
Wouldn't say they've been 100% successful yet, but we'll see how they go.
Well, let's add another extreme to that one and just say Splatoon. No DLC, all updates are free.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that counts. You can't, that's that's Nintendo actually doing the...
they're doing the best thing.
Yeah, doing the thing that EA said they were going to do that then didn't. Where post-release content is free, and then it's like, well, yeah, I mean, on games they can do that.
Technically true of ARMS as well, although that's had a lot fewer updates.
Yes, because they realised no one cared.
I guess, yeah. Poor old ARMS.
Is it, though? Is it poor old ARMS? Not really.
So there's that. What else was there about... Oh, there's something else about the EA mess that I've forgotten about Star Wars.
Second most downvoted comment on Reddit.
I mean, I think we did already...
talked about that,
yeah. We talked about the most downvoted, but yeah, I was wondering if there's not...
when they've come back, like another post. I'm sure they won't.
It's a difficult second single. It's come in at number 2 in the charts.
I'm sure they won't post on Reddit for a good long time. Until everyone forgets, hopefully.
The internet never forgets.
No.
It's still the worst place in America to work. In my
internet, yes, I agree.
No, I meant EA, because didn't it won that award once, right?
At least once.
The worst company to work for.
Was it to work for? Because there was they also won the just worst company in.
I'm pretty sure it's specific to employment. This particular award that I'm thinking of,
because they've won several of those awards, such as they are.
Yeah,
whatever
they even mean, because that's probably not even true, right? It can't be the worst place to work for.
Well, no,
the worst place to work for is probably a laundrette run by cockroaches. I don't know.
Well, no, the argument I saw about one of the times when EA won, like, worst company or whatever, was like, what about all these fucking banking companies who are screwing over people during the housing crisis and all this stuff?
Yeah, like, but they're probably
okay, that's more legitimate, but you know,
they're terrible companies, but they're probably actually great to work for. That's the thing.
Wow,
not necessarily.
Maybe. Depends on what like benefits you get.
Yeah, or if you're one of those people that made those decisions, you probably did all right.
Yeah, money wise.
But yeah, it's a loot box disaster. We're nearly out 2017.
That's a new band name, Loot Box Disaster.
Maybe 2018 will be better, but I doubt it. Like 2016 to 2017 hasn't really improved much.
Is a year enough time for them to have learned? I don't know.
Well, I mean, has it been a year or 2 years? It must have been 2 years since Battlefront, right? Because it was for Force Awakens, wasn't it? Yeah. So
yeah, Battlefront 1 was that year for sure. But I mean, but Battlefront 1 wasn't really a loot box. Well, I mean, no. it's like
it was a bad game for other reasons.
Yeah, when 2018 rolls around and we get the next run of AAA games that attempt some form of loot box, are they going to have learned how to do it in an acceptable-ish kind of way?
Well, I mean, the EA disaster with Star Wars is like the first time that there's sort of been, I guess, semi-legitimate like backlash that is actually registered. Like Disney called up the EA CEO and was like, "What the fuck are you doing to our Star Wars brand and all this stuff?" And like stock price went down 2%. It's like they've screwed it up enough that it actually registered at all.
Okay, that's nice. So I didn't know that had happened. That actually, because everyone was talking about it. It must be getting to the point where Disney is stepping in, and it's
there was a phone
well, I think that happened before they turned the loot boxes off. Maybe not coincidentally.
Yeah,
it's like that might have been cause and effect. But like the fact that they've screwed it up enough that it actually registered at all at a corporate level maybe suggests that things might change now. Well, and also there's this whole thing with like Belgium and like determining whether the loot boxes are actually gambling or not.
Right. Yes, that wasn't it. I thought one country had actually ruled it as gambling. Most haven't.
I don't think there's been an actual ruling. I think judges or whatever have said what they think about it,
maybe
which
you're right.
is like 50% legitimate.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Because there's been plenty saying we don't feel this is gambling.
Well, it's not that they don't. I like why I think we talked about it before, like what the ERSB said about it and stuff.
ESRB
said about it and stuff. Where it's like it's not. They don't have an opinion necessarily because they just follow whatever the government of the country that they're based in says.
Yeah, that was what
it's like they don't actually have their own opinion. Yeah. They're just like following whatever rules exist.
Which is it's a tricky one because I actually kind of agree with their stance in some ways, but then also they are the ones that should know. But if they're rating the games, they should be the ones that have the most.
Yeah, but they're not rating it for gambling exactly. I mean, they are kind of, but not in that way.
It's like, does the BBFC when they rate a film, do they rate it for the content and who it's appropriate for? They don't really rate it for what genre it's in, or it's not in the gambling genre.
It's like the ESRB is like only worried about age rating, so it's like the actual loot boxes are like an age-gated thing in themselves because you have to buy them with real money, and therefore you wouldn't be able to do that.
But then they will be affected by it but they will be directly affected by the consideration of gambling, right? Because suddenly any game that features anything that is considered gambling suddenly has to, by law, become an 18.
Well, yeah, that's what this whole situation with the actual theoretical like Belgium and whatever making laws will be leading up to.
It's probably going to make their lives a lot easier, right? If it is ever deemed as gambling, it's just every game's an 18. No games for kids anymore.
You can make the ESRB ratings much easier.
Yeah, it should be no games for kids anymore. They're all gambling.
You know, technically, a lot of these games aren't for kids anyway, and the whole reason this is a thing is that like they're worried about exposing kids to the gambling that loot boxes represent.
Yeah.
In Star Wars or whatever.
And I actually do think, like, despite whether you consider it gambling or not, I actually do think that is the trick. That is the key point. Like, if kids are playing the games, then that drive, that loop, is the same. Whether it involves money or not, the kind of psychological tricks they're playing on you are the same. And that's the scary part of this. It's like we could be breeding a generation of addicts.
I think it only matters when it does involve money.
Yeah.
And I mean not like literally gambling money, like not getting money back. I mean, any money involved at any point in the process, which is what loot boxes are. You're paying money to get a random thing, and that's gambling by some definition.
In some definition, yeah. I guess we've talked about this before, but I think the only reason they don't consider it gambling is because there's no way of cashing out.
No, exactly. But that's old laws from before the age where digital products existed.
I guess
at this point.
Anyway, loot boxes.
Yep.
There's no happy news, is there, this week?
No.
It's just there's no real news.
Well, yes, it was just that the continuing fuck up.
I mean, Valkyria Chronicles 4. I just want to shout out. It looks like they might be on track to make a proper sequel.
To make it the actual game that you wanted.
Yeah, big fan of the original. Big fan, and nothing has ever come close to that. Nothing.
Well, I guess it was a very specific style of game.
Yes. So if they make that and newer, I'm happy. That's all I've got to say on that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know anything yet.
No, we basically don't know anything apart from the name, and they said it will be of that style.
Yeah.
So they still could completely cock it up quite easily.
Yeah, they did kind of. Did they say that about the last one? Valkyria Chronicles Revolution, or whatever it was called.
I don't know what they said about that exactly.
No, I get the feeling there was some hint that they'd like planted a seed that it might be a bit more like the originals.
Yeah.
Some level of hype.
Same problem as Advance Wars, where it's just like,
when are you going to make one?
Well, yes, but I mean, like, they made something that was good, but then it's like it's hard to improve something that's like that mechanically precise. Whereas, like, it has this set of mechanics that work in a very specific way, and it's great. But like, what can you do to add to that?
Yeah, good point. How do you make it? How do you actually make a different game from that? That's like, I guess they've been trying. They keep trying with Fire Emblem, right? And
not really, because that doesn't really mechanically change at all. It's just like it's a new Fire Emblem story, and that's what drives sales, I guess.
Is it one of those things where the meta is different enough? Not the actual battles?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like it from what I mean, obviously I've only played one of them, and I've seen people playing some of the older ones and the newer one, but it's just like it's basically just the same thing. It's the weapon triangle, and like then you got a range unit and the healer, and they move on a tile-based grid and stats, change numbers. Job class, level up. Same. It's basically exactly the same.
But they don't have.
I mean, I'm sure there probably is.
Thing.
I'm sure there probably is some like small shape mechanical. It's because Advance Wars did that too, where it's like, oh shit, in the Advance Wars Days of Ruin, battleships can move and shoot on the same turn. Holy fuck! Makes battleships way overpowered. So yeah, that's the problem you run into. You change something and it's like, actually, this is too different. Doesn't actually work as well as it did.
Perhaps they should just release the Advance Wars Remastered collection. Just all of them, like with modern graphics.
That would
modern-ish.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah,
if they did.
I'd revisit it if they did that.
Do like double pixel resolution.
On Switch.
Yeah, and then just all of the games in one long campaign, because it's all one story. Apart from Days of Ruin, I guess.
I'd be so happy with that. That'd be great. What if they gave it the Project Octopath treatment? That sort of.
What weird, like fancy lighting effects on top of pixel
on
art.
top of old graphics, yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be really neat. Tilt shift the battlefield.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's just made of money, right?
Yeah.
There.
Well, for us, it's like how well does Advance Wars actually sell? Fire Emblem took all the money, I suppose.
I guess. Okay, well, it's got that problem with Fire Emblem is they double down on the sort of, I guess it sells well because of the anime-ness is cranked right up, right? In that, like, because they focus on the characters, they focus on the
kinda, but not like. I don't feel like the Fire Emblem, or at least what I saw of the Fire Emblem stories, are like that extravagant. It's like the characters and the character interactions mostly are in the background because it's just like your unit conversation window where you're like, oh, let's see how these two people interact, and then they build a relationship and that makes them have better stats. It's like it's not really interwoven with the story as much as you'd think. It's more like generic fantasy story. Like, the world is going to get fucked up, we better do a thing.
And that thing is children.
Well, not always. So yeah, I don't know.
What were you actually going to say about Advance Wars? Did you actually say it, or did I just side rail?
I don't even remember.
Derail you for a while. All right, cool.
I think what I was going to say about Advance Wars is why haven't they made a new one?
Yeah.
As always.
Yeah.
My continuous complaint.
Just leave off the Fire Emblem. You've been pushing that.
Just take one
too
year
many
off.
Fire Emblem games.
Just one game.
Too many Fire Emblem games. Not even really care that much about Fire Emblem. There's still too many.
It's like, who does care about Fire Emblem? Blame it all on Smash Bros, basically.
Blame it on Marth.
Yep, that's pretty much it. As soon as Marth and Roy went into Smash Bros, that fucked everything up.
Yeah, they probably did.
Made people be like, who the fuck is this? And then the whole rabbit hole from there on.
Oh, these games are actually good.
Just imagine if they put Advance Wars characters in Smash Bros. Like an Andy hitting people with a giant wrench.
That'd be well cool.
I know.
Well, like, what it is, Smash Ball move would just somehow heal everyone.
Well, I guess. Or himself, at least.
Yeah. Oh, no, Smash would just be a giant version of that assist trophy.
No, his Smash... his Smash move would probably be more like Mega Man. Like, the other CEOs would turn up and, like,
oh, right.
that would happen.
What really should happen is what it would do is it would go... wipe across the screen. Then the enemy would be on one side of the screen, and some giant guns would just move in on the left hand of the screen. And they go pew 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 pew, and then they'd go flying.
Yeah, artillery strike.
Because actually, when they hit, they go flying, don't they? Nothing dies. They just ping off screen, and it's perfect.
That'd be great. We're full of great ideas for Advance Wars. God damn it, Nintendo and Intelligent Systems.
Smash Bros. Switch.
Yeah, we can only hope when that happens. Presumably, it's going to. That there'll be, like, new characters that matter. And less clones.
Pauline will be in it. Maybe Cappy as an assist.
Well, or
there'll just be a version of Mario with Cappy as his attack.
It will just replace Flood. Because if we're going to keep replacing Mario's down B, Flood is well old news at this point.
But then what would it even do? How could you, like, capture... That'd be a very complicated bit of like. The capture would just be like Kirby, right? It'd capture someone, you'd gain their power.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like.
Should we talk about Mario Odyssey? If we've done with news, can we just like move into that in a slightly smooth segue from like talking about Mario to Mario?
Yep. Okay.
Let us seg that way.
How far did you get, Dan?
Yeah, that's the important bit.
I'm at the Luncheon Kingdom.
Oh my god, away you go then.
Well, I've done I've got enough moons from that kingdom to move on. So the next one's the boss kingdom.
Not that that's ever difficult.
No, but I've got a few from the Luncheon Kingdom, quite a bunch, I think. So looking forward to that. I found a secret tunnel to the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yep.
That was cool.
Spoilers, I suppose.
Well, this is where we're going to start talking about spoilers, because now we're getting to the A, this is the end of the game, so automatically spoilers, and B, we're going to need to talk about the stuff in the Game of the Year context anyway. So
Sure, but we'll get there. Don't spoil anything.
We're still trying to not spoil Dan by letting him say what he's found so far.
I will say the nostalgia is strong with that one.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's all I'm saying. It's like, it gets better.
It gets better. Oh, I can't wait. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like,
and then you got the star.
And then I got the star, and it went.
I was like, holy shit.
And I was like, yes. It was awesome. So I can't wait to meet
the justification as well. It's like, I guess moons coming out of shape.
Well, I guess it's like secretly the stars were always moons.
Apparently.
Is the actual.
What about the shines? Are the shines moons?
Probably.
Moon shines.
Shine
It's all about alcohol. The whole game was an alcohol trip.
Well, you could believe it on Iodofino. That's probably where all the alcohol smuggling happens.
Well, if the greetings are...
Yeah, I guess so. That's why then no one can talk in Super Sunshine. They're all incredibly drunk.
Yeah. They're wasted on moonshine.
Yeah. The Luncheon Kingdom. Now that is retina burning.
Yeah.
It's
quite bright.
Pretty bright.
It's like a game I might have wanted to have made in the Games Factory days. So many gradients.
The pink isn't quite as pink as it could be.
No.
You did go for like fuchsia pink, the classic like generic default colour in Windows.
I am tempted to say that I think Cookatiel might be the worst boss in the game.
I'm
not a fan of the boss fights in that game at all, really, but Cookatiel might be the worst.
I didn't have a problem with that one.
I found the perspective and the jumping up the vomit. Just
jumping
really
up the like splats of vomit, the last stage, that was harder, but I managed
bad.
That.
It's just hard to see what's going on, and sometimes you just feel like you've fallen through it, and it's like, okay, I'm not quite sure I could see what was happening.
Yeah, perspective.
It's like it's neat an idea, but just doesn't work in actual gameplay for me at all.
Yeah, well, that's the first boss I've done not as Mario, I think. Or as a captured thing.
The
one in
New
Seaside
Donk
Kingdom.
And Seaside, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Seaside one, you use the squiddy thing, do you? Yeah.
You're a tank in New Donk.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I guess you're the stretchy plant dude in the Wood Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
So that was.
Yeah.
Blimey. Yeah,
when
it's
not
wrong.
The Broodals, basically, that's when they do the good bosses.
Yeah, the Broodals,
at least.
Yeah, or Bowser himself. I actually found that Bowser fight, the first one, quite a pain. Before the cloud one.
Yeah, the glove hat.
Yeah. I had trouble. I can't remember where. Like getting over to him, I think, and I can't remember. Yeah,
it's like I think it's one of those situations that we mentioned before, where it's like you don't know what you're going to do the first time, so you just take damage.
Yeah.
It's like once you've done it once, and you're like, oh, that's just how this works, and then you just do it. It's real easy.
When you learn the pattern, it's just like, yeah, got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, but then the tricks they pull, like,
we can't talk about.
Yeah, can't talk about it.
To do with
looking forward to it.
I think it ends. I won't tell you anything about it, but I think it ends real well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
Obviously, this is something we need to talk about again.
Yeah. So
hope there's. I hope there's a few more places to go. Am I running out? Probably.
Well, as I said to Rob when he got to the Luncheon Kingdom on like at least one podcast ago, it's like basically Luncheon Kingdom and onwards is where shit gets a bit crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. It gets a bit mental.
What I thought was
the end turns out not to be the end.
Well,
it's like that happens at least once.
Yeah, at least once.
Yeah.
the classic like never-ending story maneuver.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you think you're going to? I mean, they already pulled that once with like New Donk City, where it's like, oh, we're going to New Donk City. It's like, no, you're going to go to Cloud Kingdom, and then you go to Lost Kingdom.
Well, I'm expecting that to happen when I fly to the next kingdom, so that's why I didn't do it just now, because I was I've got to do a podcast.
When it's obvious that it's like ramping
trap.
up, you might as well just hang out in the Luncheon Kingdom if you want to do some more of that.
Yeah, I've done a bit of that.
No need to get your map fucked up and locked out of going backwards or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't want that. Instead, I went back to Sand Kingdom and tried out the Jaxie.
Yeah! It's the best.
So that was fun, I guess. It was pretty cool.
I think that might still be my favourite thing in the game.
It's so dumb, though.
Yeah, but that's why I love it. It's just the way it animates as well, and the way it turns, the way it handles is just great. Actually, you know what? Quite like the animation of I forget what his name, but the boss of Sand Kingdom. Like the way it's all sudden, like
the giant head.
Yeah, but I like the fact that it's all no animation almost. That it's like almost stop.
Like when his face changes or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like
on how the fists change.
Yeah,
There's something cool about how really cool about how that's animated.
Yeah,
or lack thereof of animation. It's great. I'm not sure I like that boss fight particularly in terms of how it plays, but
well, I mean they put ice in it, and that's like the number one problem with everything that has ice in it. Any ice physics makes it automatically more annoying.
But it looks real cool. I was just thinking about the moons, right?
Yeah.
And their abundance. And it's like, do you think it devalues the previous Mario games? Because moons are everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But they're not only just everywhere; they're just casually used as a fuel supply
in New Donk City.
City, and there's like a ton of them going through that power plant.
Yeah, which you can't access. Yeah,
they don't really.
Like, couldn't we just have plugged the Odyssey in? Is what I'm saying.
But they don't really tell you what happens to the moons after they get. Because, like in New Donk City, you see that they go into the power plant and then they come out as the empty moons as if you collected them.
Yeah,
and it's like. Basically, like, are moons a renewable resource somehow? Like, can you fill them back in?
Well, we just need the moon to do things, right?
I suppose.
That's where moons come from, other moons.
But, like, I don't know. The number of them they're processing through that New Donk City power plant seems to suggest that, like, not only are they as common as you are when you're wandering around as Mario, they're also super common in a large concentration somewhere.
Is it like
because it looks like
the moon mine?
Mine them up.
The moons.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like Final Fantasy, where like something like the eclipse has to happen, and when it does, all the moons.
Talking about Naka or something. They're sucking it literally out of the planet. And the planet's going to die, and then a meteor.
Oh man, that'd be when they finally do the like apocalyptic world Mario game,
as Sonic is done.
Yeah, Mario Forces.
They'll discover that they've been using all these power stars and moons and whatever, and it's not a renewable resource. Shit.
Super Mario Forces of Ruin. There we go. Combine the two other games.
What happens if you put multi-moons into the power plant? Does it overheat?
That's the question. I guess multi-moons is like...
They get refined into single moons first.
Yeah, that's just a gameplay constraint. Thing, isn't it? It's like, those are just technically three moons separate.
Moons in one.
There must be I reckon there must be like a moon ore that's like that has to be refined into moons.
Maybe.
Like it's some kind of moon carbonate before that it needs.
But then that doesn't explain why the moons are just everywhere normally.
No,
like, if it was like a mineral, then that would explain how New Donk City is powered by it, but it doesn't explain why it's lying around all over the place.
No. Why does everyone throw it around like a commodity?
Yeah, so, the physics of the Mario universe, who knows?
Does it make Mario 64 less special in some ways? Now that we know that moons are stars.
No.
Like, and you need to use the power of the stars to open these doors. Is it basically saying that Peach's castle isn't wired properly? Is that what we've learned? That Peach could, if she'd have just got an electrician in, Mario would have had a way easier time getting around that place.
I guess. Kinda.
You really trying to work this out?
Because what?
I mean, it's just the fact that whole stars are moons thing. Kind of, to me, in my mind, it now makes Mario 64 kind of trivialized in that it shouldn't have been a thing. But I guess they were the old days, right? Maybe they haven't mastered the art of the star moon refinery.
Well, because in Mario 64, it was said that like Bowser had used the power to lock the doors, and you needed the star's power to open the doors back up.
But as we've proven, that's just electricity in this world.
Well,
kinda.
Well, no.
Unless they have a special property
to convert into electricity in New Donk City through the power plant.
All right, you might have found the loophole.
It's not literally electricity. Because, the Odyssey clearly runs on moon juice.
Moon juice.
However that converted in there.
But then also, right, it might have been easier for Mario to just go, all right, screw the Mushroom Kingdom for a second. I'm just going to go to New Donk City, and I'm going to see if I can bring back a load of moons, and I can just power this place.
But that's their... You can't just steal all their moons.
They probably have the same power. The same mysterious door-opening power. Or Bowser curse defeating power.
I don't know, maybe. But they wouldn't have known about that at the time. The Mushroom Kingdom was much more insular back in the old days.
What, you reckon they were just shut off from the rest of the world?
Well, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, okay. Where'd they go from here?
Back into space, apparently.
Yeah, back into space.
They already did space once.
Super Mario Universe.
Let's do something completely opposite.
That's where we thought they were going, right? Super Mario Universe.
Well, yeah. Well, that was the Wii U, because of the U. And we were like, oh yeah. Mario Universe, obviously.
Except they didn't do that.
No. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I was just like, oh, what other Mario U game could they have done on the Wii U? Mario Underwater. It's like, what is that even? I was thinking like XCOM Enemy from the Deep, Terror from the Deep, where it's just like they made a whole game that somehow revolved around.
No, that'd just be Mario just gets constantly attacked by squidlings.
Yeah.
Inklings.
I guess.
Splamario.
No, I don't know what they're going to do next. But like the thing is, related to the Mushroom Kingdom in Odyssey, it's like you can only do that once. The Soldier of Play can only happen in one game, and then you can't do that again in the next variant.
I don't know that they can, like. I still think there's the possibility. I know they split it into different kingdoms, but the whole paintings thing from Mario 64, like that, in theory, all of those places are in the Mushroom Kingdom, right? In theory.
Well, the paintings were like a special case because they don't really.
I guess they don't say really where you're going. Yeah. Oh, what? The worlds aren't real, or are we just traveling to them like the paintings in this one?
I feel like in 64 it was kind of implied that the worlds were created from the paintings rather than just being a place that the painting links to.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Which was weird why Princess Peach has all these weird paintings all over her castle to start with.
I like building worlds. So I can rule over more kingdoms. I'm a megalomaniac.
But, when you look at Sunshine, that had essentially the same painting portal thing, except it was like paint on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
That you just spray and then you go into.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Jump straight into the painting.
But that takes you to different physical places on Isle Delfino, so that's actually like a portal again. So who knows what they're going to do next. But yeah.
There's a lot of that game.
There is.
I mean, there's more of that game.
Yep.
You thought there was a lot, but there's more of it.
Man, looking forward to it. It's so good. Really enjoying it.
I think it has got to the point that now I've actually finished it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
That it does, at least in my mind, free me up to be like, okay, I don't have to dedicate myself to this. I can spread out to other games a bit more.
Also, because I won't bitch at you about the game of the year any longer.
Well, sure. I mean, I was always going to finish it for that, but I think I better try and get some classically get some other 2017 stuff in.
Your weird obsession.
Yeah, we've got to cover it, man.
We don't. We literally don't.
Well, we do if I own it.
Yeah, sure.
Let's put it that way. If I own a 2017 game, I should probably play it.
But you went and purchased a 2017 game and then started playing it.
I did.
Which is a different situation.
But in fairness, it was slightly on offer, and I have been saying I want to play this since it came out.
Yes.
So let's segue to that.
Yep, that was a good one that I did there.
I played the first few hours of Hellblade. Senua's Sacrifice. Shock horror. You can hear from other members of the crew.
Well, I'm not surprised because you
saw me play it. But, yeah, so this is, as I mentioned several times before, this is Ninja Theory's new game. Bit of a fan of Ninja Theory. They seem to do no wrong in my mind.
Wow. All the games that you've played from Ninja Theory.
Yeah, they've all been good. This is also very good. Like from I think I'm only a third of the way into it. It's not a long game from what I can tell, but it's an incredibly well-made game. Like it is super lovely to look at. Like it runs, it's amazingly good looking. It runs perfectly on my system at max settings. It's some of the face work and the detail in Senua's face is some of the best I've seen in a game. And this is. Let's not forget, this is the one the whole story behind this game is that it's like a AAA quality title, but boiled down into to be an indie experience, effectively. Right. And it is one of those through and through. It is more experience than it is game, but it is intense as all hell. It is it does atmosphere like nothing else. It's it's heavy all the time. The psychosis thing that they play on repeatedly is constantly oppressive. And I think it's become a bit of a pattern with me. I think I have to play one game that's super oppressive every year. Right? Last year that was Thumper in a way.
Wow.
Right? Because that audio is that. It is heavy and overwhelming, and this just the atmosphere of this, even Gnome, she was sat in the room very briefly this morning while it was on, and she was like, "This is a bit heavy." And it's done that well that you get that immediately, and I'm kind of loving it. I have to be said. It's like I can't play it in long bursts because I don't think anyone could. It's not really for that, but it messes with you. It does creepy ass things with the environment that you don't expect. It's kind of an audio masterpiece. I really want to see where it goes. I hope it keeps this up, because at the moment I'm kind of blown away.
Well, the trouble will be, and not that I necessarily know anything about how the actual story of this game, the trouble will be like, how much resolution do you actually want at the end? Like, do you want it to be completely unresolved and just make up your own reasons for everything, or do you actually want some actual story to happen and have a fairly reasonable resolution that tells you what's going on?
Well, the thing about it is, like, not to be too spoilerific as best as I can, it's like it's hard to tell whether the narrative in this game is entirely the creation of your character.
Yeah.
Like the island you travel to or the location you travel to is creepy in some ways, and it's hard to imagine that all of it has been constructed by her mind. But the way the narrative is spoken to you, it sounds like it's coming from your own voice. And the way the audio channels work, like the binaural stuff in the game, like it's very specifically pans stuff either to the left or right to indicate it's a voice in your head. And the narrative seems to be coming from a voice in my head, if that's the structure it's following. So if in terms of a resolution, I don't think I'm necessarily looking for a physical one. I'm looking for one that sort of makes sense to part of her, or to at least one of the voices.
Okay.
I think. Like, if one of them seems sort of satisfied and the others are going, I don't know what's happening, I'm kind of okay with that. Because there appear to be voices that aren't her own in her head as well. And although they have backstories and things like that, it's hard to know. It's still, even though I've heard like almost the entirety of one of these characters' backstories, I don't really know how he got there or why he's there. And the meta of the darkness, I suppose, is the way to describe it. Like, what is the darkness? What is the connection of some of these characters? All the while you're hearing about elements of like Norse mythology and like Odin and Ymir and how things were carved, walls were carved from someone's great eyebrows. I don't know, like all this stuff going on that I'm really just not sure how it fits into the whole picture. And even though I guess I'm not understanding it, it all adds. Like all this layer upon layer of stuff that is just confusing and I don't know what's going on. That's kind of the point. I think the game is entirely built around that. And it does work. It does work. It sets out what I mean, gameplay-wise, the thing is fairly simple, right? It's like you're walking around, like you would have seen the most common puzzle that's been shown all over the internet is like environmental puzzles, not too dissimilar from Witness in some ways, but then there's not actually a puzzle involved. You just have to find something that looks like a thing.
Right.
You look at it and it goes, oh yeah, that looks like a rune. That'll open a thing. And you know what shapes you're looking for. And the game very heavily hints when you're in the right area to see the thing. But it does it with like cool, like floating text in the air. A bit like the numbers from Black Ops, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so you know, it's guiding you through. It's not difficult in that respect. Some of there's some clever stuff with illusions and things that you see through portals that weren't there, that weren't before, but you're not quite sure which is the one you're supposed to be using, which one's real, which one's not, or either of them. Combat. It does have combat as well. It's worth mentioning, and while fairly simple, the fact that the camera is always so close to the back of Senua. Like, it's really, like most games, you know, when you say the over-shoulder cam, it is very much that in this the entire time. It's like, it's just right there. You can always see the back of her head just like taking up a good portion of the screen. So when you're in combat, everything feels really really visceral and in your face, and like you're a part of it. And so you're dodging around things. You're hearing the voices in your head like tell you when enemies that you can't see are attacking. So they'll shout behind you when you need to dodge out of the way of a sword coming in from off screen. And it feels really nice, even if it's not that mechanically complicated. And like the last boss fight I did was really something. It was, again, not particularly clever, I guess, in many respects, but just a really good feeling thing to play. So I think that's generally the one takeaway. If you want to summarize all I've said into one thing, this game feels great. Like it's like just everything comes together. Everything, and I'm finding it hard to find decent criticisms that aren't like the usual PC affair. Like I've had a hard crash fairly early on. Yeah, that happened once. There are some, I wouldn't call them rough edges, but perhaps places where you could see that they took a little shortcut on the presentation somewhere, and things like that. And there aren't many of them, but there are a few where you just look at them and go, okay, that's perhaps where they took a shortcut, or where someone like Naughty Dog wouldn't have taken a shortcut, things like that. Right. And it's because it's a credit to the game's presentation that those things stand out sometimes. That it's like, you've got so far with this on their small budget and their small team. They've got so close to being like the top tier of production that sometimes the little things do stand out. But man, what a game thus far. What a thing. You'll probably hear my final opinion of that next time.
Yeah, excellent.
Looking forward to it. I'm glad there's some good stuff out there.
I cannot say this is going to be for everyone, though.
No,
it doesn't have to be.
I know this is, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of players are going to. If you picked it up and you started it, it's a relatively slow start,
right?
And so, I wonder how far you'd get before going. I don't know about this, but for me, it's really clicking. Good job, Cambridge.
Good job, Ninja Theory.
So that was the new thing I played, and I suppose, do we want to talk Splatoon? I mean, they added some stuff,
but not the major stuff that they're going to add.
No, there's new modes coming.
Yeah,
that look a bit like One Bomb, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, I guess
like a basketball sort of game,
or like Bombing Run.
Yeah, but Bombing Run. Yeah, that is the closest parallel that we've been able to draw. Is it's like Bombing Run from Cluster Ball of all games.
Well, no, not Cluster Ball. I was talking about Bombing Run.
Oh yeah,
but also Cluster Ball.
Yeah.
And you collect the line of things behind you.
Yeah,
and lead them back to the goal.
Yes, it could be cool.
Could be.
I finally got around to playing some Rainmaker, which I didn't really play that much of in the first Splatoon.
And you finally had an opportunity to when it came up on the rotation
when it was on the ranked rotation, and that mode's kind of fun. It's more fun than I think they've changed the Rainmaker. I think, which makes like what kind of weapon it is from what I remember, and I could be very wrong on that. I really don't remember it that much from the first game, but. It's tricky. It's a difficult one. I think it's more difficult than the other ranked modes to get right, because you've got to push this thing up, and like any little mistake can suddenly result in loss.
Yeah, because it's kind of the kind of classic when your team wipes, it's real bad in Rainmaker, more so than any other one.
If multiple players go down, you're pretty much done. Like if you lose one player, maybe two, you're kind of okay. If you lose more than that, you're in a lot of trouble very quickly.
Because as soon as your team isn't holding the thing and you're dead, that's basically it.
Yeah, it's really hard. But I have had some really good twos and throws in it, lasting the time limit, which is quite a rarity actually in some of the ranked games. Actually being able to hold out for the entire time limit is.
I mean, that probably depends on I bet on lower ranks it's more likely to go one way or the other rather than be an actual battle.
I suppose the most contentious thing they've added, thinking about it, is they added a whole load of music. And honestly, it's a bit weird. Like, some of it is like...
But you were complaining about there not being enough and hearing the same thing over and over, and now it's like, yeah, we got you, here's some more. And then you're like, oh no, I don't want that.
even by Splatoon standard, it's a bit weird.
Well, some of the tracks that they started with were kind of a bit weird, even for Splatoon standards. From what I hadn't played Splatoon 1, so I didn't hear that music forever.
Okay, so... When Splatoon 1 launched, I would say that its music was similar to how the music for this launched. It was sort of followed... Well, it's basically one band, right? Yeah, like one in-world band, except there were a couple more in-world bands, I think, in the original one. And to the point where some of the music styles were subtly different. They were still like, a bit punk rocky, but some with a slightly more metal tinge to them. Like one of the tracks I remember from the original game was basically just had someone doing as much as that squid voice, like you can't really hear half the time. This was someone going they weren't singing. Like, it was I think I felt like the original soundtrack was a bit more varied at launch than where this was at launch. But now the new stuff they've added is like jazz fusion and like country rock. So there's like violins and saxophones going on, and it's a bit mad. And a lot of the not Miiverse posts, what's that even called? The image posts like seem to be like, oh god, this music.
Okay.
I don't think it's gone down too well with the community. I don't mind it. I just think it's odd. It doesn't really feel that in keeping.
Well, I feel like at this point they almost need to just do the Smash Brothers thing and just have like
for
each level set what music you want to appear or the percentage chance. Or
yeah, that would be cool.
Really, honestly, all games should just steal that system for Smash Brothers. Any game that has that much music available should have let you configure the percentage chance of each track appearing on each level.
Especially given that Splatoon doesn't tie music to levels.
Yeah, and it has like actually quite a lot of music, even compared to the number of levels it actually has, relatively speaking.
Yeah, well, it's got double the Splatfest music.
Yeah, exactly.
So that game continues to be amazing. Oh, I finished the single player, finally. I faced off with DJ Octavian again.
Is that boss actually the same as in Splatoon 1?
No. It's similar, but I actually think the original one was better.
Okay.
The original one was a way more involved fight. Slightly less tedious, actually. I thought this one was quite tedious and too long.
Yeah, it makes you do too many hits, really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's got some nice story moments in that fight, I suppose. So it's a bit more involved that way.
It does kind of seem like they just, like, maybe that's the boss is easier so you could read the text at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, probably. Probably. I just don't think the music's quite as catchy this time around.
I think that song goes places that is like kind of interesting.
It's
the way it evolves
again. It's interesting and weird in the specific DJ Octavian way, which I kind of dig.
Yeah,
but at the moment where it's okay, spoiler alert, but it follows the pattern of the first game quite similarly.
Yeah.
In that it has a moment where it suddenly becomes not the DJ Octavian show, it becomes the Squid Sisters show.
Okay.
And I think that moment where it switches and the tune it goes into in the first game is just way better, way more impactful. Which is a shame, because I have very little bad things to say about Splatoon in general, other than the single player is much longer, as it turns out, than the original, I think.
Yeah.
And also... But I do think it loses it a bit towards the end.
Did you notice my thing where I said where like they just basically gave up with the writing at the end and like key door,
do the thing. yeah, they definitely do that. Which I didn't mind, but I also felt that they kind of ran out of steam on the level design as well. It's like Splatoon, but. They try and do the Nintendo thing, and generally, which is like here's an idea, we're only really going to use it this one time, and then move on. But then the last zone is like, oh, here's a lot of the old ideas just combined together, and I actually think it just becomes really frustrating. Like I don't think those levels actually play that well. I think there were some levels where I really struggled with the camera because it gets like hidden behind bits of geometry and things like that, and it's like I can't see what I'm supposed to be shooting at. and just with honestly, the last zone was quite a slog to get through. Also, that last area, just getting around it is quite
the
awkward.
open world part.
Yeah.
Thank God you only have to get to each one of those things once.
And then you can teleport to them, yeah. But still, very solid, very solid. It's one of those things that I think would be nice for when I'm traveling, that I can just blast through a few single-player levels again to get the hero versions of weapons.
I mean, that's what I do when I need to do that kind of thing, where it's like, want to do something while my PC is doing something, but I don't want to commit to like anything long, so I can just knock out a few single-player levels of Splatoon.
Well, the problem is that when Mario came out, that took over that a little bit, because now I can just knock out a few moons.
Yeah, I mean, that is also useful for that same purpose.
Yeah. So I've got 2 games on the Switch that fulfill that role now.
But you won't, like...
Which is making me not need or not have the urge to buy Fast RMX as much. I thought when I got the Switch, that was just going to be an immediate purchase, but it's like, actually, no, these 2 games on their own are just taking up all of my need to play things on the Switch.
Well, I mean, eventually you're going to run out of game on the Switch, and then you can...
And then we should probably play Mario plus Rabbids,
Well, I suppose.
Or actually finish Zelda,
Yes, that also. Speaking of, like, when I complained you about Game of the Year stuff, like, Zelda doesn't necessarily require you to get to the end to talk about Game of the Year stuff. Because really, the ending isn't as special in Zelda, I don't think.
I think I'd quite like to know how Zelda's story finishes in that. But
I guess.
Like, I do want to know how it finishes, but
yes. So maybe try and do that.
Maybe while Dan's here, before we go on air or something, and I steal his cartridge, because I was playing your one, wasn't I? But you've got digital, so I can't use it on my Switch. I could just buy the game, but it's the most expensive Switch game.
Yep. Well, unless you count like some extended editions of some stuff. When I looked at like Mario Rabbids, when it was on sale in their Black Friday thing for a while.
Oh yeah, because they reduced the
more expensive version
to the regular price.
Price, and it was like, you look at the more expensive version, it's like, wow, that's real expensive.
Yeah,
like £66.
Ubisoft prices.
Yep. Although Ubisoft prices that hopefully might go down, unlike normal Nintendo prices. Theoretically, that would be in sales more frequently than most Nintendo stuff ever is.
Yeah, Ubisoft aren't terrible with their long-term pricing most of the time. At least on their digital, not digital, physical copies. I mean, even the Uplay service occasionally has a bargain, but by bargain I mean freebie.
Yeah.
But so there is still hope for that to not be a crate. But then I'm not 100% sure. Like, I don't think Nintendo games go that cheap that quick, on whether they're Nintendo or not.
No, I suppose.
It's just stuff on indie platforms mysteriously holds value. Puyo Puyo Tetris. Anyone got anything else?
Yes.
What have you been playing, Zachary Burgess?
Well, mainly I've just been playing a shit ton of Factorio, because goddamn, that mod pack, the C-block thing, that will take up a lot of time, and it's not necessarily because of it being C-block, although that doesn't help. Like,
oh right, this is the Minecraft turned Factorio thing we talked about last time.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, the main mods that it uses, like Angels and Bombs, I've played them before, and they do generally make everything like more complicated, obviously, because that's what mods do, I suppose. And in Factorio, that's what you want. At a certain point, after you've solved the puzzle of base Factorio, you're like, yeah, let's make a new puzzle, make it more complicated, more problems to solve. But so those just generally make it slower. And the C-block aspect of this specific mod pack doesn't help either, because you're not mining ore any longer. I mean, you could argue that should make it faster, because it means you can basically... your throughput increases as fast as you can make it increase, rather than having to rely on finding the resources and then extracting them, and like having that be the limit to the speed of how fast you can build stuff. But doesn't really, because you're still having to consume the resources to get more resources, and that balance is slightly more expensive in terms of you're using more resources to get what would be the same amount of resources as a normal game in Factorio or whatever. So it doesn't help. But then, like, the actual thing that mainly slows it down for me anyway, because I like things to be neat, I guess. Because I've seen people who play Factorio with what is known as spaghetti, where it's just like everything goes everywhere, and you just shove belts wherever the fuck they need to go, and you just fit in whatever you can, and it's a horrible mess. And it's like I can't do that. I need things organized and like neat straight lines and like buildings all in a row at a certain point. But so with angels especially, the way smelting works. At the start, you just take the ore, you shove it in a furnace, and it smelts and it turns into plates. That's like how normal Factorio works. But then in Angels, as you go up the tech tree, basically what it does is add like another building that goes in between the input and the output. So you start off with like just ore and then smelt it into plates. Then you have like ore, and then you process the ore, and then you smelt it into plates, and it gives you slightly more plates because you've done that one extra processing step.
Right.
And that's how it's meant to be balanced. And that like makes more sense for when you're using actual real ore rather than just seawater, as you are in C-Block version, of course. But the trouble with that for like slowing down the progress of the game is unless you do all the maths in advance and like know exactly what the end result is going to be, you can't really build your base in a way that's going to be expandable to the end game. You basically have to disassemble everything and then rebuild it every time when you research one of those new intermediate steps.
Right.
Because unless you know or like the ratios of how many buildings you're going to need, so you can work out the layout in advance, there's no real way of doing that without a ridiculous amount of maths, and then like you're just sitting there doing maths for like hours instead of actually playing the game for an end goal that's like then going to be several hours away anyway. So yeah, it takes a lot of rebuilding. You're just like, okay, I've unlocked the new technology. I just basically have to demolish everything I've got and then start over with the new stuff. And there's ways to help speed that up a bit. Obviously, you have logistics robots in Factorio, so you can just like designate a whole area and just have the robots disassemble it for you, and you can go and do something else in the meantime, which does help.
When you disassemble, do you get some resources back then?
With construction robots, you're taking down the buildings and just putting them in a chest. It's like you still keep all the stuff.
Oh, interesting. So the buildings as buildings.
Yeah, stay as objects.
Interesting.
That you can just get back. And so that's what I've also been. That's the other thing that's been taking more time for me, is because I like nice, neat layouts.
Of course.
And at the point where I'm making blueprints for like, here's the blueprint that's going to make iron. So it's little iron ore goes in, and then it goes through all the processing steps, and then it comes out as plates. And I'm making a blueprint for that, so I can just put that down repeatedly, however much iron I need. So actually doing the design of the blueprints is another thing that's taking up my time. But then once you've done it, it's like, well, that problem is solved for the future. It's like when I need more iron, I can just go bam, and the robots will just build it.
We need to find you a job, man. This is what this sounds like.
I mean, you'd find an actual job a lot easier than this.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure building a real chemical plant isn't this tough.
No, it pretty much is.
or exactly the same level of toughness.
Well, real world has a lot more physics.
A lot more math.
That's the actual problem with the real world. You can't just like lay down a pipe and be done. Unlike Factorio. In real world, there's like fluid flow dynamics and shit. That's
gravity.
That's where things get complicated. In Factorio, you just lay down a pipe. Although actually, at this point, in fact, in my Factorio factory, the fluid flow dynamics of Factorio is becoming a problem because my pipes are so long, and the weird way that Factorio works with fluids and how pressure affects flow is awkward to deal with at the best of times. And it has some weird like game elements that affect it weirdly, like underground pipes can be like 10 tiles long, but pressure-wise, they only functionally count as one pipe because that's how Factorio calculates it. So like sometimes it's better to use underground pipes to preserve pressure for longer, but then you're using underground pipes and then it gets confusing because you're not seeing the pipe any longer. You're just seeing little nodules of pipe that stick up from the ground occasionally. So yeah, Factorio is complicated.
Yeah.
Crazy mods. And I haven't really played anything apart from that, but things that I might play in the not very distant future, because patches have been happening.
Was this to more of games that haven't come out?
No, this is, well, half and half. Mm-hmm. So there was the anniversary update for Planet Coaster.
Oh, cool.
Which honestly wasn't that much more of an update than all the other major updates they've done up to this point. They just timed it for their anniversary for fanciness points, I suppose. And actually, apparently, like with the anniversary update and a Steam sale or whatever, apparently Planet Coaster did pretty good. Like it got back into like the top played game on Steam for a while.
Wow,
nice. Obviously, it worked then.
Yeah,
good marketing. Turn a patch into like a anniversary update.
So yeah, that's happened, but I haven't played it yet. But yeah, I also haven't played for like a couple more patches before this.
Right.
So there'll be even more stuff that I haven't seen. But yeah, it seems like they've added some stuff that it's like they've added stuff that adds complexity, but like, is it complexity executed in a way that's nice? Like they've added staff rooms, so your staff can get tired and then they need to go rest. And that also applies to the vendors, so they can actually come out of the vendor buildings and go into the staff room.
Can you put pool tables and arcade machines in there?
Maybe, but not like through a drop-down menu. You can't physically see inside the staff rooms.
Can we get awkward tannoy announcements to say when people need to leave the staff room?
Probably not.
Doctor!
Yep.
Needed in the slack jaw clinic or whatever it is.
Yep, that's one of them. But yeah, so you get...
Theme hospital restaurant.
Yes.
Restaurants.
Restaurants. So yeah,
it's not really a restaurant.
You have these staff rooms and the vendors can now leave their shops and go and get rested. But like, that's a nice management feature, I guess. But does it matter? Like, is it worth the trouble for that small amount of extra gameplay, I guess, is the question. Because, like, you know...
What does Chief Beef do when he gets tired?
Well, all the staff that can get tired look tired when they get tired. Like how they look depressed when they're underpaid.
Sad beef.
Yeah, he probably gets all floppy.
Floppy beef.
So yeah, that's kind of nice. And there's like a patch before this introduced like security. So you have like security guards and pickpocketing and graffiti and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Which, like, again, it's theoretically nice for complexity, but is it executed in a way that's any fun?
Or with any nuance, I suppose? Is it something we just slap down some guards, problem solved?
Yeah, exactly. But still, and obviously new rides and stuff, that's the main... That's obviously the more important part of any of these patches. Whenever there's a new ride or a new roller coaster, it's like, yeah, new things to actually put in my park. Not just these same rides that I kept trying to theme appropriately.
Because that is one of the things this game leaned into, right? Was like the just making stuff look great.
Yeah, and another thing that I've been spending some amount of time on is watching some YouTube videos related to the anniversary update. Well, not related to the anniversary update even. That just sort of led me to them. But I was like watching some videos of crazy people playing Planet Coaster where it's like, oh my god, how long do you spend making a single building? And it's not even functional, it's just aesthetic.
Yeah. Standard.
Because you can.
Yeah, because you can. And, like, also, how the fuck does your computer run this?
Right.
How many polygons are in this building? That's ridiculous.
It's one of those ones where, just download the file and run it on this thing. See if it can handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet it can't.
Yeah.
And we were recording at the time, but we weren't getting solid frame rate out of it, even on when we zoomed out at times.
Yeah. Although a lot of these videos that I've been seeing of people making incredibly fancy stuff, one thing they do is just really heavily limit the number of people that are allowed in the park, because apparently the character models are actually quite bad for performance.
Right, got you.
And pathfinding and everything, of course, doesn't help.
Yeah, I guess the AI is having to run more routines.
Yeah. So like
AI, quote unquote.
Yes. Yeah. You just heavily limit the number of people allowed in the park, and that helps you save some polygons and processor time.
Unless the LOD models for people just aren't that good. Like they need to have a certain level of detail to still look like people at a distance.
Yeah, maybe. That would make sense why it gets worse when you zoom out. Because you see more people, as well as everything else. And the other thing that has patched but that I haven't played is the fucking Dwarf Fortress patch finally came out. Holy
shit. My god! Holy shit!
And
shut the front door.
Although, as I said previously, that patch not necessarily much that I care about. I'm waiting for the post-major patching where he said he's going to now start working on bugs again.
Right.
And it's like, oh, thank God.
So that probably means it's a buggy mess right now.
Well, I don't really care about the new stuff. I care about he's going to go back to bugs that have been waiting in the bug tracker for ages. It's the stuff that annoys me, where I'm like, why will my military not equip more than one shoe?
Classic. Classic bug.
Because I've got wooden legs, man.
Well, they soon will do if they don't fucking equip other shoes.
Is it the entire military walking around with one shoe each?
Well, I had a weird...
Or one shoe for your army.
The whole military, yeah.
They
live in it.
I had a weird configuration of this bug where, for some reason, my military would equip, like, a decreasing amount of shoes. Like, basically, the people at the top of the list would have 2, and then by the time you get to the middle of the list, they only have 1, and then the people at the bottom don't get any. I'm like, what is going on?
Is this just how, like, you don't actually have a supply of shoes?
You have a shoe shortage going
that's how they're splitting them out, like...
No, because I very specifically make exactly the right number of shoes, because, that's how I play games.
Right.
I do things exactly the amount that's required, unlike some people.
So did you just have a pile of unused shoes that they refused to wear?
I just had leftover shoes that people would put on. Apparently this bug is related to...
wrong size.
Well, no, apparently the bug is related to, like, the game tracks left-handed and right-handedness to some extent, but you make shoes in pairs, and they don't specifically retain left-handed and right-handedness. But when you assign like armor parts in the menu to your dudes, the wording doesn't really specify whether you're assigning one shoe or a pair of shoes. And I think sometimes if you do the wrong thing, and I forget which one the wrong thing is, it doesn't like. It starts assigning too many shoes to some people and not enough to the other, and then that creates that people at the top actually end up with
that you might have just assigned a shoe to someone.
Yeah.
And then they just go, I'll have shoes.
Yeah, it messes it up. So yeah, you can tell it's because of that, because it happens with the gloves as well.
Right.
Anything that happens in pairs, you're basically buggered.
Monocles.
I don't think monocles happen in pairs.
You get one on each eye. It's the ultimate class.
So yeah, who knows? Maybe this post-patch bug fixing session will. Although to be honest, at this point, I've kind of forgotten the things that annoyed me, so I'll probably be okay to go back to Dwarf Fortress and rediscover all the things that annoyed me. Oh, I do remember one bug that was crippling me last time. The classic.
But not the shoes.
No, not the shoes.
I mean, they could cripple you.
Similar, but it's the classic situation of people who can't put stuff down.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
People who like one type of item and then just collect it, but don't collect it anywhere that's not on their person. I'm carrying 1 million jars because I like what these jars are made out of, and you can't stop me. And that's going to make me incredibly slow because I'm carrying a huge pile of jars around with me. Dwarf problems.
Yeah. Hashtag dwarf problems.
Yep.
What a game.
That's so bizarre. Is that game technically out?
No.
Is it still early access? Is it
it's not anything, really, is it?
No.
It's just a game you can get on the internet.
I guess it's out then. Okay, I guess we call it out.
Yeah, but it's technically an alpha. Technically.
Oh, okay.
Is what he is defined it as.
He's going to always call it until he dies.
Yeah.
It's not out. If it's an alpha, it's not out.
Well, I think we've already previously mentioned Dwarf Fortress in games that aren't out.
I guess.
In our awards.
Is that an automatic game of the year then when it comes out?
It beats
everything.
I mean,
it depends what year it comes out in.
As amazing as that thing is, I highly doubt it.
Yeah,
it would have to be a fairly bad year for other games for that to beat everything out.
It could have been the Shadow of Mordor year. It probably would have won that.
Yeah, that year.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't remember what year that was and what we did. So
we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Games.
No, that's pretty much it.
Darren, still playing anything other than Mario?
No, just playing a Mario.
Mario and Sonos. Okay, good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
At the Olympic Games.
It's Mario and Sonos.
Exactly. Sonos Forces. Oh dear. Sonos Mania. Yeah.
That's what your house will be.
I don't think I intend to play anything else out either while I'm playing Mario, so I'm just going to get this done. I think.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
Yeah. Get it done before the end of the year at least.
Yeah, I might get. Well, I don't know when, but I'll probably get Mario Kart now that I can play on a TV, because then I can play it with other people in a split screen on a TV, which I wouldn't have done before. So I will probably get that at some point. But otherwise,
you could have played it split screen on the Switch. One Joy-Con each, the tiny
screen. Yeah, that's true. Well, we've got two
across your apartment, right? Like
we've
the
got two
Wi-Fi
switches
range
in the house,
probably long enough.
So yeah, we could probably play. Anyway, if so, I've got the Joy-Cons and a Pro controller, and if Gary gets a Pro controller, we'll have 4 full-on controllers. Yeah. So
I am tempted to pick up a Pro controller for Splatoon.
It's pretty good.
I wouldn't use it for Mario though, because I've been using it with the Joy-Con.
You've actually been playing it
how it suggests it. Yeah, I've played the entire thing Joy-Cons detached.
Really weird. Okay.
It does feel weird, but it does make the motion control stuff easier. Yeah.
I'm not very good at that stuff with the Pro controller, because I really have to jerk it, as it were, to get it to actually react. Even though I put the sensitivity to maximum. Anyway, never mind.
Well, it's even with the controllers, I find myself doing the wrong action when I want to.
Yeah. But that's the opposite problem when you're using the controllers, because it's actually easy to accidentally do something because you're not really paying attention to it as much as when you've got it in two hands.
Yeah, I haven't really had that problem. It's just when I want to do a specific action, getting it to actually do it seems to be a bit tricky. Like, specifically, it's always that spin move, right? You want it to pull off. If I try that, it just tends to just throw the hat forward. Most of the time, like, I've done the down throw and it goes a long way.
Right.
Just getting that spin move out in a pinch.
Mario
seems a bit problematic.
So yeah, that's me for now, and that's us, I guess. How are we doing? We're under time. Just wow, that's what happens when you have zero news.
Yeah, well, we did talk a lot of crap.
I told you.
Yeah,
I told you.
We did well.
We have no news.
Filled it out.
It's going to be a sod podcast.
A sod podcast.
It's going to be a sod podcast.
It's a sod pod.
It's an on-time cast.
Is that what my podcast app will be called when I make it? Sod pod.
Sodcast.
Well, no, it'd have to be like Happy Pod or something. I'd have to brand it, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Salad Pod.
Have our podcast built in by default.
Yeah.
That's just the default feed is our own podcast.
Hey, get the Saladcast on. Yeah, that would be the demo. It's just like, it always installs when you subscribe to the Happy Salad.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Watch out for new videos, probably on the YouTube channel.
I think I forgot last week.
Yeah, there might be.
I'd already uploaded an Opus Magnum at some point recently.
Okay, good. He's got my back.
So check that out for fans of watching Zeg solve complicated puzzles in real time.
In fairness, we've been kind of crap at recording stuff as well.
That's why we have a buffer. That's why we create buffers.
Yeah. We don't have a buffer anymore. No. We have one video that is due to go
we might have to re-establish one. Maybe when we do Game of the Year stuff at the end of the year, we can do a cheeky
if we haven't wasted enough time talking about Game of the Year.
If we have any time to do other things, we
should get down on some videos.
Yeah, that's the plan. It's going to be an interesting week after Christmas or after. Yeah, so what days are there? It's like Tuesday's the Boxing Day, and then so we've got
I don't know
Wednesday, Thursday,
They're
Friday.
Just there. They're just days that are
we've got time
to be filled.
We can fill with stuff, which will be good. So you'll get to enjoy that, listeners. But otherwise, we'll be back with you for a normal service Saladcast in a couple of weeks.
Woo, woo, woo.
Bye.
I actually have to get up. Hang on.
The struggle.
Catch you next time.